Hey people, how are you all doing? Oh, my camera's terrible. I need to fix my lighting. Anyway, how are you all doing? We're going to go through this really quickly, and we are going to get straight into the podcast. I'll get to the comments in just a second. Okay, shout out to the Bug Factory. If you guys want the cheapest live food for your reptiles that I have personally found in the UK, then please use Paul-Monitor-5 at checkout for 5% off your first order. Also, as well, growing mealworms, sustainably recycled fridges, save the planet. We're going quick. Everything's going fast. Shout out to you guys. How are you all doing over there on the Patreon? If you want to support me that little bit more, other than a like, comment, share, and subscribe, then please consider joining the Patreon. All tiers are exactly the same. I haven't really been active on the Discord lately, I'll be honest. May or may not be have discovered Call of Duty again since being 15. Anyway, if you do want to see some behind the scenes secrets that I have over there on the Patreon that no one else publicly knows, then please feel free to check it out. If not, then like the video. Let's go through the comments quickly, and then we're going to get into the episode. So, hello. We're going to miss the pod. I can't miss the pod. The first and maybe even only pod. Pod. I like pod. It makes me happy. All right, how are we doing anyway? Hello, Mike. Hello, Bam. Hello, Michael. Hello, Fee. How are you doing? Hello, Dan. Hello, Rick. Hello, Riddler. Haven't heard from you in about 4 days. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for tuning in. I'm surprised that YouTube let you put that, Gary. Hello, Gary. Hello, Riddler again. Hello, Rick. Hello, ReptiChat. Hello, Tris. First time for me. Thank you for popping in and actually saying hello instead of just popping in. You are more than welcome to be here. Hello, Touch. How you doing, my friend? Hello, Serenity Dragons. How you doing? Hello, Poi. How are you doing? Hello, GB Shrimp and Scape. How are you doing? How are you doing? I think that's everybody, unless I've missed you. Right. First of all, everybody, to aid me on the pod, we have a co-host. And you may know him from other channels, such as Longfield, Reptiles and Aquatics.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Excited for this one.
I see you're sporting some fancy merch there.
Yep. I thought it was at an appropriate time.
Yeah, it's fitting. But yeah, so for people that don't know, Isopod Dreams, we did a podcast on it. Didn't last very long for me. So
no.
I decided to bring Michael on as a co-host because today's guest is none other than Adam from Micro Exotics.
Afternoon, evening.
Afternoon, evening. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Good. How's life in the pod den?
Busy, very, very busy. Everyone seems to want isopods at the moment.
Do you call it the pod den? What's it called? Has it got like an?
My daughter calls it the bug room, so we just go with that.
Yeah, it's fitting. Yeah. It's not just. We'll get into it, but it's not just isopods that you do, is it? You do other bugs as well.
Yeah, we got to do cockroaches, millipedes. I've got some pseudoscorpions, got tarantulas. Tarantulas, unfortunately, are in a separate part of the building that's separate from the building because my missus does not like tarantulas, and I've got a very bad track record of letting them out. So nice. they're downstairs in the garage, and then we also grow a lot of plants as well. So downstairs we grow a lot of sort of like micro plants for terrariums and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, keeps me busy. Keeps me busy.
It's funny how sometimes names just stick. Like I still call my reptile room the fish room because it used to have loads of fish tanks. And it's still just the fish room, but there's like 2 now.
So we call the garage the plant room. We still call it the garage even though it's a plant room.
That's full of tubs. Yeah.
I have my son calls it the lizard room, and I just call it the reptile room. So. But when he's here, he stays with me on the weekend. So when he's here, it's let's go in the lizard room. And when I'm by myself, it's like, let's go to the reptile room.
I thought that was just your house.
It is pretty much 50%,
just your house.
50% of my house is filled with lizards. Yeah. So sadly for Fee, bless her. Hello, Ruben. Thank you for tuning in. Right. We are going to just jump straight into these quick fire questions. they're really simple. It is one or the other, and I have. Knowing now that you're a monitor fan, I probably shouldn't have changed them, but I did change them. I can't also find them on my phone, so bear with me, everybody. And yeah, they're basically one or the other. So it starts off with spiders or tarantulas,
Tarantulas.
millipedes or beetles,
Millipedes.
money or time,
Time.
mentally strong or physically strong.
Neither.
You don't want to be neither.
Neither.
Fair enough. This isn't really relevant, but it also could be relevant, so I've kept it in. Wild caught. Is it good or is it bad for your hobby?
It has a purpose. And serious hobbyists should be working towards alleviating wild caught. But we do need it. Otherwise, you're not going to get these species in culture. But wild caught should be avoided unless you do know what you're doing, in my opinion.
This is the part where Fee, my beautiful now fiance, asks. She picks two random animals, and you have to choose between them. So for you, she has chosen earwigs or caterpillars,
Caterpillars.
dwarf isopods or giant isopods.
Dwarf isopods.
Do you prefer larger insects or smaller insects?
Smaller insects.
Would you rather be Instagram famous or YouTube famous?
Or neither.
Okay, I don't have the prop with me today, but we're talking about the shoes. Are you pro Crocs or no Crocs?
No Crocs.
Man, we were getting on so well. Getting on so well. Moving swiftly on. Do you prefer tropical species? This can just be as a general, or arid species.
Tropical species.
Do you prefer the wild types, or do you prefer the line-bred morphs?
Wild types.
And then, in your opinion, what do you think is the best pet isopod?
Cubaris Panda King, probably. They're really prolific. They're a good entry level if you're looking to do tropical or basically a good entry level for anything. I think they're perfect. If you want to set up a little terrarium, they're ideal for that. They don't need a huge amount of ventilation. They don't need a lot of care. They breed very quickly. Yeah, I think they're probably one of the best. And they look cool.
Yeah, I've actually, that's a species I still have. I still have Panda Kings in a separate terrarium that probably will end up in a gecko vivarium at some point. Michael, would you like to go anywhere straight after them? Because considering this is your podcast now.
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, my Panda Kings have ended up pretty much in gecko vivs throughout the room. They seem to do really well. You think they're all dead, and then you spray them really heavily, and all of a sudden, just shitloads of them start appearing
from the soil.
Yeah. Yeah.
We put some food in to come back a day later, and they're just covered it.
Yeah, I remember it was, I had, because I started off just the dairy cows, powder orange, granulated, which I thought were the most amazing things ever. And then I got the Cubaris Panda Kings because I was like, oh man, they're a Cubaris species. How cool is that? Blah, blah, blah. Ended up throwing them in with my crested gecko, my Leachianus, and I was like, I've killed all of those. There's no more. And then a few months later, they all just started appearing in number.
That's always the way. I mean, I've got a lot of species, and I think you failed with something, and I always leave the tub on the shelf for at least another 3 months because you'll come back and be like, oh, actually, they did breed in here, and these are good size now, and sometimes even they've had another generation. So yeah, never throw your soil away until you're certain that they're all gone. Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to touch on just quickly with the wild caught, because I don't know loads about the isopod hobby, so I'm not going to pretend to. But are there certain precautions you have to take in regards to, like, for example, if I bring a wild caught monitor into my room, there's a chance that if it has like a parasitic load or anything like that, it could pass on to my other monitors. Is there any like quarantine procedures necessary for wild caught? And then 2, if yes or no, what do you do in order to do that?
So normally, most good sellers would tell you if something's wild caught, and so you'll know what you're buying. And so a lot of the newer Cubara species and a lot of the newer Marinella species certainly are wild caught. When they come in, you normally lose a few in transit just because they're delicate. They've had a long trip, normally from somewhere in Southeast Asia. They've probably gone for a middleman. I find when they come in, you normally lose half or so. Depends on the shipper. I keep mine downstairs. When they come in, I keep them separate in the plant room, and vice versa. When I get plants in, I keep plants up here until I'm happy. Then they'll go downstairs. So it's quite handy having two spaces to be able to do that. I've never encountered anything with wild caught. I've never sort of seen them pass anything on to any others in the collection. You do lose a percentage again when they arrive, and certain species just don't do very well at all. But once you get through that first generation, you normally find they start to settle a little bit, and the next generation is slightly more suited to a captive environment. Not for all species, but certainly for Marinella, there's some really good breeders out there that have brought some in with the wild caught stuff, and they've had to suffer the same problems. They lose a good percentage, but after that first generation, they seem to do very, very well.
So on that then, because obviously same as the reptile world, there are some animals that just aren't fit for captivity, yet we still bring them in. Is the isopod world, because I assume it would be people such as yourself looking to do imports rather than like we just have reptile shops bringing in masses of animals. So is it more kind of regulated and under control? You go, I want these species, or are you presented with a list then you can pick from, or how does that work?
It all depends. I've got I know quite a few people in Europe, and I know quite a few people in the UK as well that do imports. I'm quite selective. I'm also quite tight. I don't normally spend too much in one go, purely because it's a huge gamble. If you do a £4,000 or £5,000 import and it gets lost somewhere, or for a few days it gets caught at customs or something like that, by the time it gets to you, it could all be dead. So I tend to just bring in 2 or 3 species at a time, and see how they do. And then if I need to top them up, maybe later on I will. But I wouldn't say it's regulated. No, since Brexit, it's certainly a lot harder. Before Brexit, it was very easy because we could ship inverts to the EU, no problem. Now there's some discretion involved when shipping outside the UK. And since Brexit, I don't ship outside the UK. For that.
So is that something you look at doing regularly, like the imports, or is it something you did more when you were doing it more as a hobby rather than making a business decision?
I still do a little bit, but like I say, because I've been doing this a while now, I've built up quite a few contacts, and many of those are UK based, and they do imports, and they'll ask me if I want anything when they're doing an import. I'll pay the price, and they'll come into them, and then they'll come back through me. I've got friends that go over to Ham and stuff like that, and occasionally pick me bits up. But most of my stock at the moment is coming from UK breeders, other UK breeders, yeah, that just got too much, or something that we're selling. Some species now, even the common stuff, I'm struggling to breed fast enough because they're just selling so fast on the website. So it's nice to got, like I say, a network of UK breeders. They haven't got to do any other legwork. They haven't got to faff around and try and sell tens and tens and tens. I just buy 100 or so, and they'll come in, and I'll quarantine them for a little bit, and then happy with them, we'll put back on the website.
You do. I get that with the few species of lizards that I breed, that it's almost easier just to send them all to a shop, get a little bit in your own pocket, and then let them deal with the customers and let them deal with the shipping and the sales and all that kind of things. It's making it easier for you, and then you also
make
supporting.
less money, but you do less work. So it just depends.
Yeah,
like time or money, and some people just like time, and it's a good way of. I got quite often find, like when I used to breed spiders, if you got a sack, it's quite handy sometimes maybe just to sell like 60-70% of the spiderlings straight away off the spider shop or something like that, and just keep 30%. It's a lot easier for you to manage. You haven't got 100 individual pots to feed. You've only got 30, so you've cut your workload down. It's the same with the isopods, but the good thing about these guys is they do live as a colony. You don't have to raise each individual individually. You can just keep them all in one large container, keep it fed, and that's all you've got to do. It's very, very easy to care for them.
So sorry, go on, Michael.
I was going to just say, because just keeping on the import conversation, I know as us as hobbyists, we normally look at when we start getting a new species, we look at getting 5 or 10, or if it's not too expensive or you're feeling a bit flush, 20. But as when you're importing them, I guess it would depend on money and how much you want to put down on that species. But is there kind of
Sometimes
number that you
availability
would?
as well. So
Yeah,
sometimes we might only have 10 or 15. As a rule of thumb, I like to try and buy 20. When I first started out, I would buy 5 or 10, and you can have a successful colony for 5 or 10. Of course, you can. It's, as long as you've got a pair in there and you keep pairs alive until they breed, you can start
yeah,
colonies. And I have done with just 2. I think I've been reduced down to before, and had a successful colony. But 20 is a much better number, especially when you're dealing with the slower breeding species like Cubaris that take a long time to mature, only have 6 to 12 babies at a time. It can take a huge amount of time to actually get like sellable numbers. And then if you get to 50 and then you sell 20, that can take you another 6 months again just to get back
to replenish the numbers. Yeah,
yeah. But if you've got 100 and you sell 20, it might only take you a little while to get back that 20. If you see, so it's best to have a bigger colony before you start to sell. I'll quite often people will ask me, "Oh, have you got any more? Have you got any more of X? Have you got any more Y?" Like, yes, I've got them, but if I just sell you some now, it's going to be months before I can let anyone else have some because I've sold you all my breeding stock. So I'd rather hold on to a lot of things until I'm happy that we've got
and just
enough
drip feed it. Yeah, no, that makes
early
sense.
days, there was quite a few species that I sold too many of, and then I had a culture crash, and then I had to buy them again. And my rule of thumb really is, if I only buy something once, and you haven't got to buy it again.
I guess it's your peace of mind as well. Like I've got so I only keep Cubaris species. My room's quite warm, it's got a lot of lizards and I really enjoy them, so that's kind of what I focus on. But I've got a colony of rubber duckies which I started off with about 25, and I like that. Like it gives me that peace of mind that if I lose a couple, whereas I've also got white duckies where I've started with 5, and I'm sat there like individually counting them.
Someone sent me 2 on an import just because I asked about the price, and at the time they were really, really expensive. And I think I've had them maybe nearly 3 years, and I think I've got 50 now. Ish.
Yeah.
I counted from 2 in 3 years.
I started with 5, and then like I say, I every time I check them, I'll count them, and I'm last couple of times I can count 3 adults that I definitely 100% see all the time, and I'm just sat there like, oh man, it's so much more stressful. Then I open my rubber ducky, I lift up the cork, and I'm like, oh, there's loads. That's fine.
Put it back down. Yeah. When there's only a few, like I mean, some species I can only get 10 of, or some are really expensive, and I'm only going to buy 10 of. And then obviously when you get them in, they're the ones that you do check a lot more. I mean, I've got a couple of Marinella species here that I got on an import. I bought 10. I think I got 5 come alive, and I've got 3 each of both of them left. I'm just hoping that that's enough, that there's pairs. There might not be. If not, there probably is something I won't try again until someone's had a bit more success with them or not, because I know these are wild caught. I will get some captive bred ones because they've obviously not settled.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question, is how do you kind of, a lizard comes in, no one's ever cared for it, you got to kind of throw shit to the wall and see what sticks. Do you just liaise with people that have kept similar to the same species, or how do you go about kind of learning these rarer, newer species?
There's a lot of breeders out there. It's a global thing now, the whole isopod thing, and there's quite a good few Facebook groups and things like that you can go on and talk to other breeders. Some of it is trial and error, especially with the wild caught stuff, because not many people have been breeding it. Others, you can simply just look where they're from or their physiology, and like with Porcellio, so a lot of like the Spanish and the Greek Porcellio, at first people really struggled with them. Once you sort of get their care down, like as in the right ventilation and the right humidity, they're pretty much all the same. And you can just apply that to each different species by looking at where it's from. It takes a little bit of common sense, I guess, but there's a lot of people doing it now, and there's a lot of people who ask.
So that is fitting, because I'm going to dip into the questions right this second. So Charlotte has asked, is using powdered protein mixes enough, or is feeding things like shrimp better?
There varieties of spice of life. So I mean, I've got about 8 or 9 different foods here on the food shelf, and I like to just cycle through every week I'll try and feed something different. So I only feed once a week. I feed a veg feed, so I'll give something like butternut squash or courgette, pumpkin, that sort of stuff's really well taken. And then I will do the protein feed, and that could be fish food, dried fish, dried mealworms, daphnia. I've got some powdered protein mixes, just a bit of variety. And the thing is, you'll see what they seem to like the most once you've had your pods for a few months and you've tried feeding them a few different things. That went really fast. You'll know what they prefer. But just by giving them variety, they're going to pick what they want. They're going to go for the nutrients that they need the most in that food.
Spot on. There are
So
other
is that
questions. No, go on.
sorry? Just on feeding, then is that the same? You're feeding the same thing to everyone,
Pretty
or
much.
do you mix
I've
it up
got
depending?
like a basic system, so everything always has rotting whitewood in there. Everything always has leaf litter in there. Always has cuttlefish bone in there as well. That's my go-to calcium source. And I say on a week, I just go through and we'll use a different food every week, because if they don't like what I'm feeding them, they've still got food in there. They've still got the
Yeah.
leaf litter. They've still got the rotting wood.
They can forage. Yeah.
One of the biggest questions I get is my isopods aren't eating, and you say, so what have you been feeding them? And they'll send you a picture of like a really big dried fish. So I've not been eating it. How many have you got? I'm like 5. Oh, you won't even notice that it's taken a nibble on that, but it probably has. So when you've got smaller colonies, break them up a little bit. So if you feed in smaller amounts, and just do it by eye. If you put a lump in and you see it's all there the next day or 2 days later, next time don't feed as much. And you just sort of gauge. I mean, I'm a little bit of a charlatan. I sort of make it up as I go along. A lot of it, if I'm really honest, I make a lot about what I do just up as I go along. It just works for me, and I just
And if
do
it doesn't work, do it differently next week.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
with my
that's it.
keeping. Literally, people say to me, "Oh, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Or how do you feed your lizards? When do you?" I'm like, "When they're hungry." And they're like, "Well, how do you know when they're hungry?" I'm like, "When I feed them." So it's just yeah. And just quickly on this one, because then I can scroll down the chat. It's not related to feeding, but we can touch back on that because I have a couple of questions on that myself. Which isopods do you find the most active?
Marinella species are probably one of the most active and showy of all the isopods. I read somewhere if they're happy, they're out, and they're really cool. You just open the lid and they're all over. Like lichen branches, they particularly enjoy. You stand those up and they're always out climbing on the branches. They're one of the best ones, I think, to view.
I've been really, really reluctant to get them. Like there's so many cool colors, and I know what I'm like as a person. I'm quite a collector, so once I start something, I'm going to want them all. Which is why I'll be like, just Cubaris, just stick to Cubaris. That way you could just slowly work through them. I was speaking to Daniel today, and I was like, could I do a display tank? And he's like, yeah, like they would be like they're so active and they're so colorful. I'm just like, yeah,
you can with them. Then they will be out and they will be, they'll be showing themselves off for sure.
That answers this question. So we'll carry on talking on it because there's a pet shop near me. So again, I'm not an expert. They're the like almost like I think they're called the tricolor ones or the embers or like the
Pink Lambo, Diablo was that the ones Matt got? Yeah.
So there's a shop near me.
Very nice.
That has Diablo and another one that's similar to Diablo in like 2 little 30-30 exoterras, and they are everywhere. Like I couldn't believe it because I've kept a few different species, but they were just everywhere, cruising around like little bulldozers. I was like,
they have a very large brood as well. Considering their price tag, they have a very large brood. It's just got quite a specific sort of environment for them. Once you get it right, and I'm definitely not the expert on Marinella. There's something I'm still learning myself. A few species I've done really well with, a few species I haven't. One thing I've learned is ventilation is quite key for Marinella. They like a good cross ventilation. And lichen sticks, I've never seen any other species go for lichen like they do.
It's and one thing that was off-putting for those as a species is the people that talk about them climbing surfaces, and
they certainly do climb. And when I first had tricolor, I was like, why are these not breeding for me? I've had them for ages, and I had them in a tub inside another tub. And like early on when I first started keeping isopods, I'm still using a lot of the same tubs. I just melted my holes in the tubs and couldn't work out why they weren't breeding. So I had them inside another tub with a few others, and I just kept finding all these little white spots on the ground, and they were climbing out and drying up. So now it's a tight fitting lid and a much better vent for Marinella, because they can climb, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I use
I wouldn't
rubs.
say it's a smooth surface, but once you've sprayed a few times and you've got those mineral deposits left on the side, they climb up those. They've got a good grip.
I know with roaches, like I know when we live feed roaches or we keep roach colonies, the surface climbers we use I've seen people use like Vaseline around the edges and stuff. Does that work?
I'd be nervous for that with Marinella, because they're so small. They potentially would just get stuck in it and die.
Okay.
I just go for a well vented tub with a tight fitting lid. I think it's probably better.
Yeah, I think that's why
some people use like the fine fly screen. That's probably better. That's probably much better. I've got a few cockroaches that are really good at getting out, and I've sort of used fly screen on the lid, and that does work. But every time you open the lid,
they're there.
You've got to be quick, because they're all fucking stuck to the top. So you've just got, it's like a game. Like I always do a countdown. It's like open the lid, flick them all off as fast as you can before they just start falling off.
For my roach colonies, I've got like air seal, like airtight lids. Like, so they've got they were really expensive for boxes, but they're airtight. And then I've did vents on the top so that
can't get out.
But I think that was one of the things with the Marinella species, is that I use rubs, so they're not the tightest fitting lids, and I'm just out there like they'll get out of those. And then
if the wall's high enough, they're not going to climb like 30 centimeters, but they can climb a small distance, like in a bra plast or something like that. It only takes you to sort of have a look in there, put everything back, and have a leaf that's like up a little bit higher, and they'll use it, and they're off, and they're up, and they're out. Don't get me wrong, I get escapees all the time, and it's just part and parcel. I've got quite a few colonies that have got invaders in. You spend a lot of time just, oh, for fuck's sake, you don't live there. You don't live there.
So
the babies in there now.
With that, and just the way you talk about that, do you keep because obviously you've got a lot of tubs? Do you keep the species all together, or do you mix them in so they don't get cross contaminated?
I try my best to keep species per tub, but like I say, sometimes you do get invaders. And as I've got further into this, I'm switching up the way that I keep things now, so they're in these tight fitting lids with good vents on the side. They can't get in. But dwarf whites are an absolute pain in the arse. If you've got a big collection, they will get everywhere. And what I've had to do with them is I still find them now. So I don't know how they teleport around the room. I move them to the bottom. If I find a tub that's got dwarf whites, they get moved to the bottom. And then when they get thoroughly cleaned out, I have to pick, it's this biggest pain, is you have to pick out every single isopod from the tub and then move them into a new tub. But you be so careful to check that they haven't even got like a dwarf white stuck to their leg or something like that, because they're so small.
They'll just be.
And they're pathogenic, so only one needs to get into the tub, and they just fucking take over. And they're not that much of a nuisance until a point. They reach a point where there's so many in there that they just outcompete.
It's like duckweed in aquariums.
Those levels just drop off when you have dwarf white. So they are a pain. And what I then do is I empty that substrate into another large container, and I'll check through that a couple of times a week just to see if anything's resurfaced, and then I can separate that and put it in its rightful tub. But I wish from the very beginning that I'd used tubs like this from the very beginning. I've got about 200 tubs in here, and I'd say maybe 15% of them have got dwarf whites in.
Oh man! So lesson learned: just don't have dwarf whites in your room.
Yeah. If you're gonna have a big collection,
fuck dwarf whites.
Yeah, fuck dwarf whites. They call them the devil's rice because they just everywhere. Yeah.
Maybe I should get some. I just need to touch on this really quickly. Jared, you didn't get a Solomon Island Nile monitor today. I don't mean to be. They're from Africa, so they wouldn't have been Solomon Islands. So I don't know if you've got a mangrove. But if you need any help or anything, just message me on Instagram. Just now that's out the way. Back to the pod. One of you are going to have to help me with this. I have a species of isopod that I can't pronounce and have had a very hard time feeding care info for them. Do you have any advice or good resources on the care of an obscure species. We've kind of touched on it, but in this specific species, which I don't have a clue
I
what it
don't
is.
have those. I don't have any experience with those. I have a similar species, or I don't know if they're a similar species, a different family with the same tuberculosis. I always just call it tuberculosis because that's what it looks
That's
like. Whenever you
probably
read
how
it.
I would have read it. Yeah.
I don't actually have any experience with that species. I'm not really familiar with them. It's not something I can help with there. Some of the best resources though I found is the isopod. What's it called? It's on Facebook. Isopod networking group. I think that's really good. Just post a question in there. You've got a lot of the Asian breeders are in there, and they do speak really well, good English, and they've got some of the best collections. And I'm assuming that's an Asian species looking at the family, so I couldn't.
Isopod Keepers networking page, 27,000 members.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. Some really good breeders on there. Just
There's
post a picture up, ask a question, they'll help you out.
To be fair, so unlike the reptile community where we stay away from Facebook because they're just awful, I've actually found the Isopod Facebook groups really helpful.
They are, yeah, they're really good.
You will.
I don't have a lot of time.
say,
I wish I did. There's some really good groups, and I'm just sort of a shadow in them. I don't really post or help as much as I probably could. But there are some great breeders out there that do. Yeah, they will answer your questions and they will give you good advice. And I've seen a lot of people like I've lost my colony or my son's looking at getting into isopods, and people will just send them. You know, let me have some of these. I've got some extra ones, which is really nice because in the reptile hobby, you do need a lot more equipment to keep 95% of everything that you're going to buy from the shop, or you can't just post someone a gecko through the post, but you can send someone's, a small colony of isopods because all they need is a freaking lunchbox to keep them. Essentially, them. You just need a lunchbox. Put some air holes in it. We all kept woodlice in the garden as kids. It's probably one of the first things that any exotic keeper ever did is caught some woodlice in the garden, kept them in a tub, probably killed them. But they did. Everybody's collected bugs from the garden.
I work with children. I work in a nursery, so I work with 3 to 5 year olds mainly. And it is probably the most excitement you'll see from a child is when you tip over a piece of wood, and they're just and they're everywhere. And the amount of photos I've got on my work phone of just children holding woodlice that they found, and it's the most amazing thing ever for them. And it's interesting because children get this perception put onto them about things like spiders, for example, and spiders or some other, like, they don't like slugs or snails. Some of them are they love everything, but woodlice is one of those ones that just every child is like, oh yeah, how amazing that is. It's an interesting one.
A friend of mine, friend of the show, he built a terrarium for some isopods, and instead of buying some, he just went and caught some from outside. So yeah, even as grown-ups, we do that. So,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of the species.
I think that was him being cheap.
Right here, a British
100%.
species.
Yeah, I don't know the name of the species, but when I was out the other day collecting leaf litter, I was turning over wood and bits and bobs for like trying to find some decently not rotten wood for my enclosures, and there were a really, really big, almost like the Porcellia levis color, like the bluey kind of browny grey color, but they were really big and they were like circular, almost like armadillium. Look at me knowing the names. And then they had like little white spots on their back, and I was like, that is a sick isopod. Like, and there was like 20 of them there. I was like, do I take these home? And then I was like, no, just leave them alone. But yeah, there are some cool ones you can find in the woods for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's some really cool ones out there. I had a lady find a Armadillium depressum magic potion in the wild.
Sick.
Which was really cool because it didn't really exist at the time, the morph. So yeah, that was up in Newcastle. So you got to find some cool stuff.
Just get out there and find it. Oh, that's actually something I wanted to ask, because someone has said on here the pyramid scheme, and I've said about royal pythons being pyramid scheme. With isopods, I kind of want to dive into sort of how you got into it, because we were talking very quickly off air, because obviously you started by keeping geckos from the sounds of it.
I've kept all sorts of stuff ever since I was a kid. Since I was 8, got green animals when I was 8. I've had poison dart frogs. I went through a phase of keeping snakes for about 4 years, and had a lot of corn snakes. Yeah, I've worked in quite a few reptile shops, kept spiders, snapping turtles,
Nice.
lizards, pretty much everything you can. And I had a bit of made some mistakes in my life, and I had to reset. I moved everything away, and I had my little girl, and I wanted to get back into it, and because it's just what I enjoy doing. It's my hobby. It's always been my hobby. And I decided to get into building terrariums.
Mm-hmm.
And I found isopods. I thought, oh, these are really cool. I used to keep dwarf whites to feed to the dark frogs. Never really see any other species available than dwarf whites. And there was a few, like Armadillidium maculatum and a few others. And so I bought those. I just only had a small space. I was just using a cupboard at the time, just a hobby cupboard. And I just got a few species, and they bred really well for me. So put them on eBay, and they sold really quickly. So I used them. I buy a few more species. And that's just spiraled from there.
Now you're the crazy isopod man.
Yeah.
How long ago roughly was that when you like started it back up again then?
About 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
And at what point in that 5 years did you kind of think to yourself, I could do this? Like, this could just be me and my full-time gig.
I've always wanted to set up a business with doing my hobby. I've always wanted to work for myself. And I think maybe when my daughter was born, we decided to move back to Cornwall. And I was doing some pretty shit jobs at the time. I think I was working in a cafe, and then I was doing care work. And I just said to myself, like, I want to set this up as a business. Whether it takes me 4 years, it takes me 5 years, whatever, I'll work, and I'll just do it like that. And that's what I did. I just kept putting all the money, because I had a job. Obviously didn't need the money from the business to buy stuff, so I just kept putting all the money back in, all the money back in, and just kept buying more stuff, trading for stuff. And then we bought a house, so then I had a bit more space. Also wasn't hiding everything from my landlord, so it's meant I should really go into it a bit more. And and I got a storage unit. I've got 2 sheds. We've got the garage. We've got the spare bedroom. And I want to take it further still. I still want to take it much further still. Whether I'm capable or not, I don't know. It's quite hard at the moment. It definitely involve scaling up and taking on some stuff and whatnot. But there's other directions I would like to take it, not necessarily just with the isopods. So I'll do a lot more with the plants, a lot more with the terrariums, workshops, and maybe even go down the sort of like education route and do sort of packages for schools and universities. We do some cool genetics packages together and stuff like that, and we can teach kids about how genetics work. But yeah, it's a lot of it's part. I've got so many ideas in my head. It's just time.
I used to work in the aquatic industry, and something we did was called Fish Keeper Fry. And it was basically a free program for the schools. So you would, as a shop, you would provide them the fish tank and all the equipment, and then each week you would give them a new lesson. And then each week after they completed that lesson, they came in and got a new set of fish, and they slowly built up their fish tank.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
And then it went on for the whole year, and then at the end of the year, they got the choice whether or not they wanted to return everything and just be like, oh, thanks, that was amazing, or they could purchase those items from you at a discounted rate. So basically it was your cost plus tax. So you weren't, as a business, losing anything, but you were like providing all this resources and information. And the amount of children, the amount of schools that took part in that was fantastic. And it was, so I'm Scottish, so I'm going to say P3, P4, but you're looking at 7, 8, 9-year-olds, that kind of
just like
that's a really good age to get kids into looking after animals, I think.
So it's an interesting program. And then there's some people that obviously, like, some stores were like, oh yeah, like they advertised it, whatever. And then there were some stores that really went to town. I know my best friend's the manager of the shop, and his record is 9 or 10 schools. Nathan, Paul, you met him at IHS. 9 or 10 schools he managed to get in 1 year. And then awesome. It's the amount of schools that will just at the end of it go, yeah, fantastic, great, and just give you the money because they really enjoyed it and they want to keep going. There's not many that ended up returning the equipment at the end of it as well. So
that's a really cool scheme, yeah, for sure. That's definitely something I want to look into further down the line, but that involves having someone to do a lot of the boring jobs that I'm doing now, so then I've got the time to do it. So I'm quite happy where I am at the moment. I've only just quit my job a few months back, and So it's just sort of finding a new balance of everything at the moment. I'm enjoying
And
it.
it's good. It's good to have plans. It's good to have ambitions, and to where you want to get
you
to
get
as
to a
well.
point and go, oh yeah, fantastic, and then the isopod hobby could just drop out, and I've put all my money into it, and I've quit my job, and I was like, so it's good to have a few other ideas of backup, and I think the whole sort of live planted tank has really taken off. Like I remember, I mean, I'm 35. I was 35 this week, and
You don't look 35 at all.
I know, man. I know. I'd like to say I've lived a really good.
I would have put
clean
you
and
younger
healthy
than
life,
me, and I'm 29. I would have put you younger than me.
I was 35 on Tuesday.
Well, happy
I've got a
birthday for them. You
4-year-old.
look great. Anyway,
Thank
moving
you.
swiftly on.
I haven't looked after myself at all. It's because I can't grow a beard. That's what it is. I can't grow a beard.
That's probably what it
It
is.
makes
But
me look
either way,
really
it
young.
works.
I
It
can't
works
grow
for
a
you.
beard. Where was I going with that? Anyway, so I've lost where I was.
In case the market drops, you want different.
Yeah, but I said the
different
whole live
areas.
planted tank thing.
Yeah,
I know when
that
I was
is the way it's
13,
going.
I got some poison dart frogs. So I was working in a reptile shop after school, and I had to do like a PowerPoint presentation for my dad to say I could look after him. And there was nothing available at the time, like these exoterras or anything like that. We had to convert a 3-foot fish tank. My dad had to make a special lid for it. Obviously made it out of wood. It warped because of the high humidity, but we built like a waterfall in there, and then just trying to buy plants, like there was just no information about it. And over the years, like I've always been really interested in the whole live planted ecosystem. I think it's a much more aesthetically pleasing way to look at your animals, and it's also, in my opinion, it's got to be much better for the animals, if done properly. So I just always think that goes really well together. And then with the addition of isopods, they just add an extra element to the ecosystem. You've got a cleanup crew, and you've got your springtails, and we've got some cool stuff in this week. We've got some pseudo scorpions, and I spent a good chunk of this afternoon trying to film them and not squash them, and they're absolutely tiny. And they'll eat mites and they'll eat springtails. So you're adding another level in and up the trophic levels. It's quite cool. All goes hand in hand.
100%. I think even
they sound interesting.
Yeah, they do sound interesting.
Cool.
I used to breed scorpions back in the day. I bred the giant flat rock scorpions, emperor scorpions, shiny burrowing scorpions, Israel golds. I bred like a whole bunch of scorpions. So scorpions are kind of my jam, and I'm thinking about getting back more into them. So I might message you. Anyway,
these honestly, they're tiny.
Yeah. I know the ones you mean.
They've just got the claws. They're really cool.
I know what you mean. I had a bunch of vinegaroons at one point as well, and like some whip scorpions. That's kind of right into my street. I lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, the reptile hobby as well. So it's not just the bug hobby. The reptile hobby is moving into smaller species and smaller terrariums that are more naturalistic. That is the trajectory and the direction that the hobby is going. So if you can get your foot in the door there, obviously it's already, I'm not going to say it's established, but it's already sweeping through. Like the wave is just starting to build up in that the last couple of years. So
and not so much just reptile keepers. A lot of people are bringing nature indoors. The houseplant hobby has grown exponentially over the last few years, and then that goes. People like to keep terrariums. It's human nature is we always like something a little bit more different than the last person. So people are always pushing the boundaries, especially with the terrariums. I've seen some amazing terrarium builds. People are using like resin pours to make water in there, and the choice of plants that's being used in them as well. It's just to give that scale. It's really cool. It's always artwork what some people are producing, and it's really cool. Nice good showpieces to have on your shelves, and just bringing nature home.
Well, exactly. It's good to go because a lot of us have lost nature. We were all working jobs in offices, and we don't get outside, and we were locked up for like 2.5 years. It's having that little slice of the wild can sometimes like bring you back. And I've recently started, as in the last 2 months, building terrariums, and we've got a like a kilner jar on the side, and I'm like, I need to get around to doing it now. I'm terrible at it, but you don't get good until you keep
practice. You keep practicing, playing. It's fiddly as fuck, especially when you do stuff with like a really tiny aperture. Like you're trying to do I went because at first I didn't have any money when I set this business. I didn't have any money at all. Like I just had a baby. We just moved back to Cornwall. We were absolutely brass, and I knew I wanted to do it. So I was going through people's bins and like getting all the bottles out of the bins, like the nice Kraken bottles or the nice fancy gin bottles.
That's sick.
I was cleaning them out. I was going down the woods. I was finding some moss. I was finding some ferns. I brought in some cool little like LED corks, and I was making them, and I was taking them to market, selling them on Facebook Marketplace, and then all the money I was then using to buy better stuff, so like kilner jars or like lava rock and stuff, so I could then up the next set of terrariums I was making. And then I thought, well, if I'm buying lava rock, I might as well buy enough of it to put it on the website as well. And we just sort of thought, just went like that. And yeah, you could provide more variety. But you don't have to have any money to go and make a terrarium at all. You can literally go and find a bottle, peel the label off, and you can go out into the woods,
get dirt
and you
outside.
can just make a terrarium with some cool stuff that you find in the woods, and just watch it grow. It might succeed, it might not.
But then you go
just
again. You just keep going again and again. Yeah, I see that all the time actually, because I do the electrical maintenance for like a massive hotel, like 10 minutes down the road from me, and obviously they have lots of vodka, gin, wine, and all the bottles just get thrown away. And every time I go to like the wee bin for like the electrical waste, I walk past the glass recycle, and I'm my brain just keeps going like, I could do stuff with those. Like so it's funny you say that, because I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and I'm like, I can just imagine I come home with like, I don't know, 20 empty, and Fee's just like, what the fuck are you doing now?
My storage unit is full of like, because people know I'm into it as well. Like whenever my mum comes up, she's like, I bought this in the charity shop, or I bought this in the charity shop. And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll get round to doing something with it. I've got like an old, like you put coins in, you put sweets, vending machine.
Yeah.
I thought that'd be an awesome terrarium. It's just sat there. I've never got round to do it. I will one day, but I just keep collecting glassware and then not having the time to do anything with it. But you can, anything glass that's vessel shaped, you can make into a terrarium. Yeah, you can even, I've done some cool open dishes in the past as well. Filled them with water and a bit of gravel, and then I've used stuff like epi-web, which is a water wicking material, built like a little island in the middle that constantly stays wet and keeps all the moss wet. But they are quite high maintenance open ones like that. You got to keep the humidity up on them.
The ones that you see them and forget about them are more my kind of thing, because one, if I will just forget about them, and two, I've got a million other things on my plate at the minute anyway, let alone looking after plants. So I'm like, they'll be all right. Oh, they're all dead. Yeah. You got anything on that, Michael, before we kind of change gears?
No, I think just in general, I think a lot of us, the way we get into like this kind of things is you start off small, and we talked about like species of like cleanup crew and stuff, and then that's how I got into the isopods, was keeping a whole bunch of very beginner friendly, and then really enjoying them, and then seeing them, and then like, all right, well, if I could maybe get something a bit cooler, and then all of a sudden you've got tubs and tubs and stacks and stacks.
And that helps you build confidence. If you start with beginner species and you're successful with beginner species, you're like, oh, cool, well, I'll have a go with something a bit more difficult. If you go for something difficult and you mess it up, your confidence is knocked, and you think, right, I want to try that again. I'm not even sure I want to try isopods at all again. So it's a good way of building confidence. And I think more people sometimes should look back to the basic species before going, oh, yeah, cool, it's my first species. I'm going to do an import, and I'm going to get the coolest looking, most expensive isopod I can. And not do very well with them because they haven't got any experience.
I do think from like the business point of view as well, though, because I know it's something me and Paul spoke about a lot, but obviously our chosen hobby of reptiles, it's not as easy to just like, I think it's such a good market, the isopods and the plants, because you aren't restricted so much to your geographic location and stuff. Although obviously we've got couriers and stuff for selling babies, it's an additional cost that people sometimes don't want to add on. So the fact that you can provide it a nationwide service, it's fantastic.
They're not the most reliable sometimes, I must admit.
No, they're not, especially mine.
9 out of 10. Thing is, I probably ship maybe like 250, 300 orders a month. And maybe 5 or 10 orders won't get there when they should. And when you put it on a graph, it really is a small percentage.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
It happens to everyone at some point, and it's pain in the ass. I've got 2 parcels, I think, at the moment that have been missing for about a month. I'm nearly a month, and I think one's like 250 quid, and I know everything in there isn't going to be alive. But until it's been a month, you can't claim anything back from Royal Mail. It's still missing. The tracking says it's at my post office. That's the day I sent it, and it hasn't. It's not. So Yeah, they can be a pain in the arse.
I'm up in the north of Scotland, so everything takes that just a little bit longer. The guaranteed before 1 p.m. never reaches.
You got that. Yeah, there's a few places like that. I think like the Isle of Wight. I know. I think some places in Northern Ireland, which amazes me because I'm down in Cornwall, and sometimes I send stuff. I'll post it on the school run at like 3:30, and people in Scotland are getting it at like 9:30 in the morning, and you just think that's obviously just gone straight up there.
Yeah.
Like I've had some where they show up and you're like, bloody hell, that was quick. Then I've had some before, like I've had like isopods delivered and stuff, and they don't show up like the next day. And I'm like, it's Scotland. Like I'm north of Scotland. It's like it's Scotland. It's like I don't expect next day. But as long as everything's packaged well, it'll be here tomorrow. It'll be fine.
And it's coming into winter now, so most people will be using. I mean, they should be using 48-hour heat packs. If you're sending special delivery, don't use a 24-hour heat pack, because if they don't send it the next day, it's going to be too cold. So use a 48-hour, and literally 9 times out of 10, if it's not delivered on the next day, it does come the day after that. I just avoid. I'll only post on Mondays, but I will post Tuesday, Wednesday if people need it or really request it. I mean, sometimes I'm doing other stuff. You know, got kids and whatnot. It's half term. I can't post on those days. But yeah, don't send on a Friday next day delivery unless you're paying for the Saturday. And I avoid sending on a Thursday next day delivery, because if it doesn't arrive on Friday, they won't deliver it Saturday. They won't deliver it Sunday. We have to wait till Monday. So really, if you're shipping Monday to Wednesday, are your days to ship next day delivery.
Yeah,
but first class in the summer, first class is fine. Like I use first class pretty much all year, but just when it gets to the cold point of the year, it's not reliable enough. If it takes 3 or 4 days and it's gets to 4 or 5 degrees outside, that is too cold for some species.
I think my issue with because there's a special delivery where you need a signature. Like half the time, I would rather, well, all the time, I would much rather it be delivered first class, because I've got really good, like I know my postman. I live in a small place. Like I know my postman. He knows me. He knows if I'm not in, just to leave it at the door, and I'll get it within half an hour. Like there's no issue. When it's sent special delivery though, and you're like, bloody hell, like.
I have the same issue with my next door neighbour, right? He they won't let him take my parcel, so I've had to give him a key. And even though I know my postman and he knows that I get bugs all the time, they're not allowed to give you a special delivery parcel unless it's going through the door. So he has to come out of his house, walk around the line,
my God,
open the front door, walk in, and stand in my doorway, take the parcel, he'll put it on my stairs, and then he'll come back out, lock the door, and go back to his house. But he's got to come out of my house for them to give him the parcel. I've even been to the post office and spoke to the guy and said, like, look, I've actually built a box down the side of the house specifically for parcels. It's heated, so like you can put stuff in there. It's for that, and they don't want to use it. So I just give him
it's
a tin of biscuits every couple of weeks, and he takes them a parcel. So I can't go wrong.
It's a tricky one, because normally if it's not my regular postman delivering, like even like first class and stuff like that, if it's not my normal delivery man delivering, I get slipped through the door. Even just anything, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
The thing as well, it's also from a seller's perspective. First class isn't tracked all the way, even if it's signed for. It's only the seller can only see when it was sent and when it arrived. Whereas with special delivery, it's tracked the whole way. You can see where it is, what van it's on, when it's out for delivery.
It makes sense. Yeah.
We've got to cover our ass at the same time. I've lost a lot of money through Royal Mail, and I've learned how to work the system, not to my advantage, but to not be at my disadvantage, because you don't want to be giving away loads of money all the time because Royal Mail, someone's chose the cheaper option, and it's got too cold. So
yeah,
it's not that cold yet, Daniel. It's getting cold though.
I had I can't remember what it was, Michael. It's a shiny gators, and it was like another expensive species.
Was it not
the ones I gave to you?
Choy?
Yeah, Pack Choy. So I had
Pack Chong.
There you go. It's the accent.
I basically paid 2 individual people for Saturday delivery, because I just can't be in to receive it. So I paid for the Saturday delivery. Cool. Paid the extra. That's completely fine. We've got we didn't have a Ring doorbell at the time, to be fair. I was in all day, and I just received 2 delivery notes going, "Sorry, we missed you." I was like, "No, you fucking didn't. I've been in all fucking day for this." And I ended up going down the post office, and the lady's like, "You can't be in here. It's shut." I was like, "I don't give a fuck if it's shut. Where the fuck is my iSpots?" And that for me was just it. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know how America ships fucking reptiles. So I was crying over like 15 isopods, let alone if I can imagine a monitor lizard being shipped across the states. Nah, not for me. But someone did ask a question further up, and then we'll kind of shift gears. What isopods are the biggest ones except Porcelio?
I think probably one of the biggest outside of Porcelio I've got is Hilaria brevicornis, the armadillidium, but quite large. Let's see if I can find one.
Is it
like
is
a
it
small marble?
Time for podcam.
Yeah, let me see if I can find one of these guys. They're like a small marble.
Look at this, everybody! Wow. All right, let me 2 minutes. All right.
These
I
guys
like
like
the
to burrow,
Hoffmans.
so this is 1 second.
Are they a Hoffman's Porcelio?
No, these are Hoffman Segai is a
Yeah.
Porcelio. They're sort of like
Okay.
one of the largest species.
Yeah, they're I
It's
like
not
those.
very big
I want
actually.
those.
I haven't got. If I find a bigger one, there is a really big one. It's like a small marble.
Small marble, Jesus Christ. BH is here for a good time. Hello, BH. Hello. How does this way sound?
There we go.
All right, are we ready
It's
for
not
it?
quite. That's not one of the biggest ones.
All right, here we go. Let me.
Oh, we're going in.
We're on.
Hold on, how are we going to work podcast here? I set it up so that I could do this actually. I'm having to use my laptop because I can't actually see my phone. Pretty big for an armadillidium.
It's a big pod.
Well, it's not an armadillium, it's a Hilaria. Hilaria.
Are they like the clownfish of the isopod world? Terrible joke there, Paul. Come on. We're here for it.
Yeah, they're quite large. Outside of Porcelio, but Porcelio are the bigger ones. A lot of people don't like them actually. Some people really don't like Porcelio. They like the armadillidium because they're cute. But Porcelio are a different shape. So some people don't really like them.
Yeah, we're gonna have technical difficulties. Everybody going backwards and forwards into podcam just because I don't know how to do stuff, but it's worth it.
Maybe we just do a segment in a bit, and people, you just tell me what you want to see, and I'll just go through with that. I can handheld hold the camera there, and we can just go through.
So people that are in chat, if there's any isopods you want to see at some point, be prepared because send them. I don't know what's what, so people just have to be here for it. They hide deep all the time. Are the flat skirts not bigger than the armadilliums? Are the flat skirts the Werneri?
So yeah, that's Porcelio. So I think the question was what species are larger outside of Porcelio, but Porcelio are the bigger, flat skirts or a lot of the skirted Spanish and Greek species.
We'll get into podcam in a second. Right. So as regards to just micro exotics as a general, then, so you started obviously with the isopods, and you got into a bit more into your millipedes, getting into your scorpions and bits and bobs and the plants, and tarantulas. Are you planning on adding more species, or obviously in potentially long term? Because
I would like to. Yeah, but I mean, the long term plan eventually will be, if I can get to that point. At the moment, there's no point doing it because I can run it all from home. But as the collection grows, it will reach a point where I can't fit any more in, and I will need a bigger space. At which point, I will look at, I think maybe getting an industrial unit and maybe opening a small shop front at the front, not a big shop front at all. Maybe as big as this room, and just having display terrariums on. We section the back out. We can have a plant room. We can have an animal room. We can have 2 animal rooms so we can control the temperature in both of them, and a stock room, and run the website from the storage unit, but have a small shop face so people can come. We'll be open maybe like 5 days a week or something like that. People can come, have a chat with us. We can take them out the back. We can lock the front door. We can take them around the back. We can show them the back room and just come get what they want. But yeah, like I say, I haven't got any business rates here. I haven't got anything like that. It's my house, so for me,
it's a big
it
jump.
works just having it here. If I
Mm.
go too much bigger, you hit a spot. But I'm a collector. Like it's my hobby as well. So yeah, I will be getting more species because it's what I enjoy doing. So yeah, it's the space constriction.
I would love an exotic pet shop, like a reptile shop. It's one thing that's really not up here at all. My local pet shop's 2.5 hours away, so I'm always like, what could I do? Like how could I do this? And one of the ideas, like when I got into my isopods, was having like ring binders on the counter of just like the
And
efficiency.
having them just
Yeah, you can flick through. Again, I did it in the fish shop years ago. We did it with koi. So it was all like hand selected koi, so that you could just flick through this binder and see the picture of the koi, the name, the price, whatever the size or whatever it is. And I just sit there thinking, I was like, that'd be cool. Like, there's not many shops that do isopods other than just like tubs, like lining a shelf.
When I did my first show, I did something similar for the species I took to the show. So I did I bought like a canvas, and then I made cards for each individual species that I took. And then I did a show a year later, and I went to make the cards, and I was like, fuck that, there's way too many now. Like, I'm not making that many cards. I'm not laminating that many cards. So now I do like a menu. I just do like an A4 menu with all the species on a spreadsheet and the price. And they're all at the table. But sometimes when you've got like 80, 90 species on the table, and it just looks like a tub of leaves, it's helpful just to have a list and be like, oh, you got them? And you just be like, oh, yeah, they're in there. Then you can get the tub, open the lid up, show them a little bit better. So
I think as well in these shows where there's just like hands everywhere grabbing and stuff, having something that you could actually physically hand a customer and be like, have a look at that.
Yeah. So tell me if there's anything on there that you want, tell me, and then we get it out and have a look instead of you just willy-nilly opening tubs up, jamming your finger in there. Yeah.
Do you? I assume next year you're going to be doing majority of the shows then.
Yeah, I shall try to be doing a few more next year. I'm not going to be going to Scotland, unfortunately, Michael, because it's just
no, I asked that already. You already got that.
Very bottom, all the way to the very top.
Well, I know for sure we're doing Taunton next year. We're doing Coventry. I think we're going to try and do the BTS. I say it's me, and then a buddy of mine, Charlie from 8-Legged Freaks. He goes to every show, and he always comes and helps me on my table. And I actually couldn't do the shows without him because I wouldn't be able to week otherwise. So it's really handy that Charlie comes with me. So we're going to do Taunton, Bristol, Coventry, BTS, and I think maybe the Central show in London next year. These are all the invert shows. I probably won't be doing IHS because again it's quite far away, and I'm not really sure where you stand now trading as a business at the IHS. So
you're not allowed.
No, you're not allowed.
So I wouldn't be taking animals. If I did IHS, I'd probably just be taking plants. But it's too far for me. It's too far. And the issue I have it's like a 3-day thing. You've then got to shut the shop for the weekend because you can't keep track of what you've got here and what you've got with you.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have a day off to put everything back. I ship on Mondays anyway. Most of the shows are on a Sunday. It's a lot of effort. It is worth it. It's good fun. You get to meet all the people that you've been selling to, and it's a really good community. It's a good laugh as well. But it is a lot of work as a trainer.
I need I take a long weekend. If I'm going to IHS, I take the Friday off and I take the Monday off. I'll drive down Friday and Saturday, show on Sunday, drive all the way back on Monday. Or if it's further down, I'll fly down, stay at Paul's. And it's a long. But then this year when I fly, at least with the reptiles, I can't take anything home, so it's a bit like.
Yeah,
but it's a big
Would you
commitment.
leave it at Paul's house and then get couriered home, do you then?
Yeah, but I guess again, like I'm the same though. Like if I'm couriering from Paul, it's 70-80 quid. So it's unless it's something that's worth it. Yeah, it's harder.
Yeah. Or I look after it until the show because I'm nowhere near as south as Cornwall, but I'm relatively south, so I'm about 40 minutes away from Portsmouth. Like I'm further up. I'm pretty much bang in the middle of London and Portsmouth. So I'm relatively south. So obviously, even from me and Michael, was hours and hours. But he had a green tree monitor, and it was at mine until IHS, and then I just took it up to IHS for him. So there's always an option. Yeah.
There you go. If you need anything, I post it to Michael up to Paul, and then he can bring it up for you.
I've had deliveries from you. It's fine. Like it's just
you have, haven't you? Yeah.
yeah. So it's just things that need couriered, really. Anything with a vertebrae.
With a backbone, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't miss them days because that's like you talk about like being nervous with the postman. Like when you've got lizards coming, it's you're even more nervous. I think isopods. Like, oh yeah, I've got 10 isopods, or I've got a pair of true pine-eyed and leachianas or something like that coming in the post. You're like, fuck, come on, like please. Like, and in the summer as well, you're like, oh come on.
Yeah.
I
think that's where using proper couriers or using someone that you trust rather than it's a hard one.
I drive, like, no matter where in the country the animal is, I'll drive to get it.
Yeah.
I once spent 14 hours driving to get an Aki and a green tree monitor. So I spent 14 hours driving, and that wasn't the stopping and talking. It was just driving 14 hours. Yeah, but I wouldn't courier them, I'm nothing against couriers. I just personally, if I'm spending thousands of pounds,
I think sometimes as well, if you're buying something from someone you don't know, you want to see the animals that you're buying before you money down. You want to see that they're healthy. You want to see they are what they're selling as well. You don't often get through a courier. You'll get photos, but you've never actually seen that animal in the flesh.
No, I normally drop off the stuff I breed as well. I'll drop it off. I expect people to pay obviously fuel. Like I'll ask them, I say, you got two choices. You can courier it, or you can pay me slightly more than a courier, but you're guaranteed it in however long it takes from my house to there, not 24 to 36 hours. A majority of people are like, oh, cool, yeah. But like I drove to where on earth was it? No idea. 5 hours away down Cornwall direction, but I forget where it was now. And I drove on the day last month where we had the storm, like down in the West Coast. And I'm just driving down with like Get an Eye on, and my van's like, vroom, vroom. I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? I should have just couriered it. But yeah, and I only charged like 60 quid to deliver it. So I don't make any money, but for me, it's important that my animals get to A and B. And I know I can guarantee them that. But it's just hard. Like, Fee's like, oh, you're always fucking dropping off lizards and picking up lizards. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, it's trying to, and for me, it's not even a business. So I can understand definitely why you decided to take the leap to go full time with it. Right. Anything else, Michael? And we'll potentially get into PodCam in a minute. You got any?
I'm ready for PodCam. Yeah.
You got any specific questions on any specific stuff before we get into PodCam?
No, let's go for it. There's been a few requests for different.
Right. Let me just turn this camera around on PodCam if I work out how to do it.
No, that's fine. Right, everybody in chat, if there are pods you want to see / questions you want asked about certain pods, please speak now. Forever hold your peace. PodCam. What did you see? This one.
Yeah, the tricolors people are asking. So people are asking if he had tricolors.
Lemon blues, Cuban spikes.
Great. I've actually got a lot of those. There's probably some fancy ones that be there.
All the pods go.
How many tubs have you got, or species?
In here, 176 tubs, I think, when I counted the other day. And pretty much every one of those is a separate species. It's not all isopods. It's not all isopods. I've got quite a few different species of cockroach, quite a few different species of millipede. I've got some beetle larvae, a few other bits and pieces, but it's mainly isopods. Yeah, I'd say I don't have many duplicate colonies either. So I think it's like 146 species or something like that I've got in here at the moment. Obviously, not all of them are for sale on the website because not all of them. I've got breeding.
Yeah.
Some are pretty new. Some I only got this week. Only bought.
And at your current rate of growth, when do you think you'll hit the 200 species mark of isopod?
See, now that's an interesting question because I get to this time of the year and I panic to fuck about my tax bill and I stop spending any money at all until I've done my accounting, which I still haven't done. Until I know what I've got to pay the tax man in January, I won't buy anything pretty much apart from Christmas presents. Once I know what I've got left over, then I'll have a
And
look.
surely
But-
that's the time to buy it because it's just all a write-off, no?
Well, no, because I'm paying last year's tax still because I'm really behind because I'm always leaving everything to the last minute. So until I know what I've got to pay for last year's tax,
I know you're saying,
I won't spend any more money. But then when I do, then I'll buy loads of stuff. Also, I don't really like buying stuff in the winter. If I'm honest, if you're buying stuff from abroad in the winter, it's a very slim margin for error. A couple of days stuck in a cold warehouse or temperature drops, you can lose. I've had bad shipments in the past, and I've just learned my lesson. Like try and avoid this time of year. I'll buy from UK sellers, and I will probably buy cooler tolerant species, but not much. Another thing, so anyone that's watching, if I haven't got a species, you have, and I've got something that you like, I do trades. It's one thing that I've always done. I really like trades. Daniel, you bastard, you know I haven't got any fucking grizzly bears.
I like the grizzly bears. They're one of the few species that I do.
They're pretty
like.
cool looking, yeah. So
Yeah.
far, I've only seen them wild caught, so I shall wait for someone like Daniel or Nicole.
Yeah, come on,
bring them,
Daniel,
and
get
then
on it.
I'll look at getting some. Then, yeah, I'll let someone do the hard work first, and then I'll have a look.
People in the comments are asking for an update on the rhinos.
On the rhinos.
The larvae.
I didn't know you.
Yeah.
Didn't know you were keeping mammals as well.
Oh, just wait for these.
Right.
They are.
I'll get back to your question, hazardous. Don't worry. Are these? Oh, these. I know exactly what you're on about. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a 2-tub jobby.
We're going. Are we? You let me know when we're ready for podcam.
So that's the smaller of the two.
I was going to get these myself if they're what I think they are. All right. Yeah. Mad.
That's the smaller. The other one's a bit bigger than that. I just got soy all in my keyboard.
As larvae, I'm assuming they're unsexed, so you don't know if they're a pair.
I know a huge amount about these. If I'm truthfully honest,
Yeah.
it's just something that I bought at a show because I always fancied getting them. I've also got a little bit of a dried insect sort of taxidermy collection on the wall, and to buy a taxidermic Goliath beetle is quite expensive. So I figured why not have a go. Even if I only got one out. No, even if I only got one out, it can live a good life, and when it does perish, then I've got one for the wall, and I didn't have to spend 200 quid buying a dead beetle.
There's a guy I know, he's got a whole there's a guy I know, he has a hole up his staircase on the left. God knows, of an average UK household staircase, floor to ceiling, just like etymology, different bits and bobs.
Oh, I love mine. I've got that is a native butterfly taxidermy piece that I got commissioned. Basically, what I did was I went to some sort of butterfly research people that do studies on what species are found in local areas, and I found one as close as possible as the school that I work in, and I got the 4 most common species of butterfly.
Is that Macrae?
Yeah, it's the closest I've ever got to owning one. It's not mine. I didn't kill it. I bought this off eBay.
How much did that set you back?
It was actually really expensive, but I kind of always.
You don't have to say the exact price. I just wanted to know if it was a lot or less.
I think it was like 260 quid or something like that.
Oh, it's not.
And it came without the formaldehyde as well. I had to buy the formaldehyde separate. A few Jackson's comedians there.
Yeah, see, you're a weirdo like me. I've got 2-headed.
Oh yeah, super weird.
Yeah.
Super weird.
I've got 2-headed monitor lizards in my freezer that I've hatched that I'm waiting to preserve. Yeah,
it's weird. Isn't it? You remember going to the museum as a kid and seeing all them all in the cabinets and stuff. And I also, because of my little girl, I like to show all this kind of stuff because she finds it really interesting. So we got crocodile skulls and fossils, and we've got a taxidermy.
I moved my puffin.
Insects.
You're puffin?
I took him down. I've got puffin.
Yeah,
that's cool.
He's cool. He's really cool.
We went to a show yesterday.
Has he got a name?
No, because he has to stay in a box because I've got cats, and he would get ripped up.
That's how he got the puffin. That's how he got it.
No, so it's an Icelandic puffin. I got it off of Etsy, and it was expensive, but it wasn't too bad. But it's really cool.
It's the sort of thing a normal person doesn't buy, though, isn't it? Like
it's great.
Puppet.
There was
I find people in the hobby are very like-minded. Most people, and you just like something that's different, and that's essentially what's different. Is we like something
Yeah.
that's different. We don't like. I mean, we like dogs and cats, yeah, but we like something that's different. A lot of people like a challenge. I find that's quite a draw as well. I like to keep something that someone hasn't kept before, or breed something that someone hasn't bred before. That's part of the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to be getting pretty much every animal that I have here. When they do inevitably die, I will be getting like their skeletons done on every single one. I probably won't do the sort of preserving. I'll just get the skeleton piece like in framed and just have them. But there was a taxidermy stall at the Christmas fair that me and Fee went to yesterday, and they had like a massive buzzard with its wings spread and its talons out, and I was like, "This is fucking cool. This is really cool." And then they had like
I
a
like the
tawny owl.
birds.
Yeah, tawny owl.
Yeah, like
They had like moles with like lawnmowers and shit, like in like.
I think that takes it a little bit too far. I've seen it to do with mice.
or that little mouse with a hat
little
on.
bit too
Yeah,
far.
that I find that distasteful. But the birds were done, and they had a kestrel, a buzzard, a tawny owl. They had a raven, which was really cool. They were like a couple £100. I was like, oh, don't really have any money at the minute, but that buzzard's really cool to like stick.
It looks sick on my
there.
mantelpiece.
But yeah, I really love the taxidermy. I've got three 2-headed monitors in my freezer. I just need to get round to like preserving them and things that pass away. People are like, oh, what do you do? I'm gonna put it in bloody rubbing alcohol, mate, and stick it on a shelf. That's what I'm gonna be doing. But yeah,
I've got I quite like skull caps for like different deer species. I've got those in my monitor enclosures. Yeah,
That's cool. I've got a big ram skull that a friend of mine did for me a few years back, and he's layered the whole thing with maps.
Oh,
and
cool.
It looks fucking sick. It's big, a big curly horn fucker as well. And we're redecorating at the moment, so it's just been sort of sat there, or it's going up on the wall. Like, quite happy with that one.
I my plan. I want to get like a big stag antler set for the back of one of my big vivariums, so that I could have like as like a back showpiece and have one of the lizards climbing on it and stuff.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
That's what I saw on Instagram today. People were walking in the woods and they found like again the top. It was missing the bottom jaw, but it was basically a deer skull, but it was just engulfed in like moss. It'd been there obviously years, and the video was so well done. It was them walking. They found it, picked it up, and they end up sticking it in this terrarium, and then it cuts, and you've got all like these little isopods and snails and stuff climbing all over it. And I was like, that's sick. Like, that is proper. I need stuff like for me with the desert species of like gecko. I could just have like, I don't know, like some sort of like deer, cow skull
or something like that. Yeah, it would look really cool
in the sand. Like, yeah, that.
I've got a photo of when my Akis were babies. One of them hiding inside the a roe deer. I think it's a roe deer. I've got like inside like the roe deer, like poking out the eye hole, and it's cool.
Yeah, we're a bunch of weird, creepy fucks. On that note, our dairy cows dry.
I'm so gutted I don't have my puffin out. It's upstairs now.
The puffin. We need the puffin. I remember that actually because you were saying about it to Fee, and I think Fee, correct me if I'm wrong if you're still here. I think she thought you had a puffin, and you were like, no, it's a dead stuff one.
Because on my first time I was on this podcast, she asked me, I can't remember what it was. My question was puffins or something else.
And you were like, oh, I have a puffin or something like that. Yeah.
And I was like, the other thing alive, the puffin dead.
Yeah.
Would be. Oh, they're just such a I highly recommend. I'll send you the shop on Etsy. They're pretty cool.
We'll get a puffin, yeah.
When we were in Cornwall, we went to find the puffins. We went on this big long walk, and there's like a puffin rock or some shit. I don't know. You probably know better than me, being like that neck of the woods. But anyway, we walked across this big thing, and we were I guess naively, I thought I was gonna like come around all this scape and then see all the puffins on a cliff face, and it was a fucking rock in the middle of the ocean, and the puffins were on the other side, so you can't fucking see them anyway. So we walked for hours to see no puffins. I was like, motherfuckers. Anyway.
We had a whale wash up here the other day. A whale washed up on Fistral Beach a few days back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I think it was a fin whale. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, black and white bird, BH.
Get that skull and stick it in a terrarium.
Yeah.
That would be. Have you ever been? Like, this has gone off tangent now. Have you ever been to the Natural History Museum in London?
Many times, yeah.
Yeah, the whale. I think they've changed it now, but the whale, like,
Hanging from the ceiling and then in the
Yeah.
main room. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Have you been, Michael?
No,
No,
I've not been to London. Closest to
do you
London
have
I've been.
Do you have a natural history museum in like Edinburgh or Glasgow?
We've got we've got museums. We've got Glasgow Museum. They've got a really cool elephant, and you can actually see the bullet hole
Oh, that's pretty cool.
where it was put down, which is interesting. And they did a dinosaur theme a couple of years ago. I went to that and seen like the T-Rex skull and stuff, which was really cool.
If you ever get a chance, the Natural History Museum is mind blowing for
It's on my list.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just catching up with the chat, but yeah, dairy cows, dry or humid loving?
It's a 50-50. I keep half and half. They all species, no matter how dry loving they are going to need some humidity. But dairy cows, 50-50, and they'll just scuttle between both halves.
I had a massive.
But they will tolerate it a bit drier than some of the tropical wet species. You know, like your Cubaris aren't going to like a dry environment. These will tolerate it a little bit drier, providing you've got a humid area for them to go when they need it.
Yeah, I had a massive boom. I brought 1,000 dairy cows just to chuck into vivariums. And strangely, the enclosure they did the best in was my Savannah monitors, which is, I say strangely, I guess it makes sense talking about it now, but it's relatively dry. The enclosure's humid, but the soil on the top layer is like bone dry. But it's got like big logs and stuff in there. And I thought they'd all died. And when I was in there turning soil, revamping it and stuff, moved one of the logs. And honestly, I didn't put all 1,000 in there. I split them between all vivariums. But I was like, Jesus Christ, there's probably 1,000 again. Like, you just move it and then they're just there. And I'm like, I don't know if these guys are coming out. So then I added a bunch of leaf litter in every single enclosure everywhere just to try and encourage them to like leave the log. But they were staying under this. It's probably about 5 foot long, like probably this round log that's just in this enclosure. And yeah, they all just live underneath it. It's pretty cool, to be fair. My favorite thing to do is to go into the vivs at night and move all the leaf litter around and just watch the isopods like fucking run around. Fly whale. That whale will not be doing any flying.
Oh, it's a fly
anytime
whale that
soon.
washed up in Fistral the other day. Oh, that's cool. Fly whale.
Not sure. Right. Is there any final questions, anybody, before we go to PodCam? Because lots of people have been asking for PodCam. So are there any final questions? Anyone in you want some isopods? Yeah, we'll have some isopods. All right, let me go back up to the top and see what was the start. What was the start one, Michael? I don't know.
Tricolor, someone was asking.
Cool, right. So I'm just going to hold this phone and we're going to do it that way.
All right, I'm going to add PodCam to stage. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
PodCam add to stage. Now I need to remember how to make PodCam full size.
You'll get there one day.
It's easier with just 2 people.
There we go.
All right, PodCam. I hope everybody's here for it.
Remember another tripod? I did buy a torch. Don't really need a torch.
What size are these tubs you're using?
These are Bra Plus food containers. I think these are 5.6 litre, these larger ones. I peeled all the labels off. I'll have to check my purchasing history. There's a lot of babies running around in here. I saw this morning. Seem to all be clustered around in one area.
Man's got a Komodo dragon on his hand, Michael.
I got a full map of the Komodo Islands on my.
Yeah, I saw on Scott's podcast and I was fangirling. I'm not going to lie to you. I've got
remember
Komodo
seeing
on my
that
leg.
map as a kid, and you see Komodo on it. It just says "Here be dragons," and you just think,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. That's pretty sick. Yeah, I've got a Komodo on my leg. Looks similar to the one in your hand, actually, strangely. But yeah. Right.
But yeah, that's Marinella tricolour. So there are quite a few in here. They're all just hiding.
Is there a special mix you use for the soil? Or do you
I got my own isopod mix that I've sort of been making over the years.
Do you sell it?
I do. Well, I actually completely out of stock at the moment.
Link is in the description.
Like
guys.
most things on the website.
Yeah.
Most things.
It's good to be busy.
The problem I have is like it's trying to keep sort of tabs on everything. As I said before, it's only just me here, and you're selling stuff all the time, and you get to the end of the week and you think, well, it's like a tub of isopods. You don't really know how many are in there until you pull it apart.
And I assume, like you say, is there a certain number you have in your head before, like a rough number a colony has to get to before you start?
I would say about 50. I'm just showing you guys around the room here. I'd say about 50 normally.
Next, someone would like to see some albino or albino, depending where you are in the world species. Do you even get albino?
I wouldn't have to say these are albino. Maybe leucistic. These are one of my favourites. This is a morph I isolated a few years back.
Are these the ghosts?
No, it's Hoffman Segi. Yeti or Yeti.
Which one's a ghost? I don't know. I just know there's something called a ghost.
It's a pretty big male there.
Don't laugh at me, Michael. I don't know. The Hoffmans are one of my favorite. Do you find that they are quite active, or are they always shy?
Yeah, they're quite active. Yeah, they're nice and big, and they're always running around doing something.
And roughly,
if I'm honest, I've got so many in here. I don't really spend too much time in each tub.
Roughly, how much is are they?
You've ruined them.
What happened?
That's what I'm saying. You've been ruined. That's you now. You're going to be back into it.
Yeah, but I like the Hoffmans. How much are they roughly?
I think they're about 45. Again, at the moment, they've been really popular, and I've just had to take them off sale for a bit because I would like a few more again before I start selling them.
All right, what else have we got? Have you got any beetles other than larvae?
No, I've only got larvae at the moment. I haven't got any other beetles at the moment.
What roach species do you have?
Roach? I've got some cool roaches. Here it is. These are that excited. Death's head roaches.
Yeah.
They got like the death's head. Clarice.
Females are winged, guys. Don't forget that.
There's loads of nymphs running around here. That one's had a bit of a damaged wing. Well, it's a bit better molt.
Yeah, I've got discoids here that I breed.
My favourite of the roaches I've got here at the moment. There we go. Rhino roaches.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they're cool.
Big.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they're cool. They're cool.
I believe they've still got another molt to go until they're adult.
I enjoy roaches. I have domino roaches here, and they're diurnal species, and they're just out and about cruising around. Like, they're proper cool, and they play dead as well, which is kind of funny.
Oh yeah, domino roaches are really cool. They can climb though. I found relatively smooth surfaces they can climb. I've got emerald roaches. I've got
emerald roaches are a nightmare. Emerald roaches get out of everything, I find.
Yes, I would second that. They get fucking everywhere. I find them on the ceiling quite often, and I just have to flick them down.
Yeah,
I've switched over to these tarantula room enclosure, those with the magnetic lids.
Yeah.
And then I glued in a better fly screen on the inside, and they don't get out. But if you open the lid, they all fucking sit in the rim.
Yeah.
I can't remember the Latin on these guys. They're black emerald roaches. Very similar.
No idea.
But they're black. I can't remember the Latin. I've got a few other species. If I'm really honest, I've lost the labels, so I'll have to go back and check. I've got more downstairs, and we've got bits everywhere, really.
Have you got Kluge Nebula? Never seen morphs of them before. Only locales.
Nebula.
Fancy.
Yeah, different. Each one's very different. You've got some with almost no pattern, and then you've got some with this like Milky Way pattern on the back.
Do you reckon you could quote unquote line breed them, or do you think they're just very polygenic?
This is something I have been trying to line breed, and someone else has done it too. Created something called the skeleton, and they're probably even the same gene. But I have got a separate colony that are called Nebula Mark II, which is all the really, really high, funky white ones. Like, oh, he can go, he can definitely move. So it's completely different to what a Kluge would look like. You can't get the best with this when it's on live here.
You can see it, yeah. So is that the same species then, just really different?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Saturn Invader? Yeah.
Same species, just a variation again on the pattern. But I'd say I've isolated some more of these, and I'm trying to produce that more consistently.
Fee saying, let's go to the Natural History Museum, Michael.
Sounds good. I need to plan a trip.
They have a massive I forget what it is. Some sort of sauropod there at the minute. Maybe a Brachiosaurus. Right, I'm back up to date. Let's see what everyone else's people have been saying.
How's the white shark tub?
Yeah,
Have you managed to thin that down at all?
No. No.
How's your
Now
white
that
shark
I've
tub?
managed to get more, so Paul, these were the ones that I bought the colony of 100 plus, and then I could only find 2, and I got, I think I got some off of you, Adam, then I got some off somebody else, and I added a whole load, and now the tub looks at least like it's got something in it. But this
God.
I want this. This is what I want when I open my tub, but I'm
Literally,
nowhere near that yet.
Everywhere. I think they probably need an upgrade, if I'm honest, because they seem to be between every single layer of leaves. You can peel a leaf back. And
How long
there's
roughly
water
is this before you get to that kind of level?
I've had these for about 3 years, maybe. They were really fucking expensive when I first bought them. And I couldn't believe what came. You know, they were like that big.
I mean, I don't know what they're worth now, but it's a great ROI. If you look at that, bloody.
Well, they're not worth a tenth of what I paid for them now, I don't think.
Okay.
They're dropping quite quickly.
As with any species that breeds quickly and has big broods, they will, because the market. And the same with reptiles, as the market becomes saturated, the price comes down because everybody's competing to sell them. Then what happens is less people breed them, less people keep them, and then the price starts to go back up again in the future when there's less people with them. I don't know if that'll ever happen with isopods because they're very, very popular.
All right, Michael, this is up to you. BH is saying Kibara, so you either Michael and or Adam, if there's anything you two want to showcase / show off, then feel free, go crazy.
I'm trying to think.
You first, my man?
Say again, sorry.
Well, after you, Michael, you show us something cool.
I'm in my living room.
Pick a species, any species.
Have you got red panda?
Yeah.
I think I'm quite interested in like the different colored pandas that are coming out recently. They're quite cool.
The pink panda's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pink panda.
Pink panda.
Is there a pink panther?
They are actually pink, which is quite cool because see a lot of things say they're pink, and you get them and they're like, no, it's not really pink. I think the girls are going to like them, and probably some of the boys.
Not to discriminate.
The price at the moment though is ridiculous.
What, pinks or
the pinks? Yeah.
what's this? Orange panda, red panda.
This is red. What they call red panda. Yeah.
I've just had some babies of these guys. I'm very excited.
Seems like hanging out on a super rock. There's quite a few in here, but they're all really small at the moment. I sold most of the adults off, and I've just kept. Oh, there's a chunk of them there.
Nice.
I'll be interested to see how these guys do market-wise, because I wonder how quickly it's going to be before they just absolutely plummet.
They dropped very quickly, I think.
I
and
know
they will
it's
drop
that.
again. There's a ton of them down there.
You don't have to go, obviously, numbers and bits and bobs like that. But what is the most expensive pod that you have in your room, like as an individual value, not as in the number you have?
What that I've got, probably the most expensive thing I bought recently. Marinella species lava were probably one of the most expensive things I bought recently. I think they were £35 each or something like that. And they didn't come in very well. Like half of them were dead, and I've lost a couple since. So I think I've got 3 of them. But you know, swings and roundabouts. It's worth a go. One of my favourite things I got a few months back, and they've just been sat there doing nothing for a while. Is you're not even going to be able to fucking see these. They're way too small. Isopod species Thai spiky. I don't know.
I think I
the
even
baby just there, but they're so tiny and they like to burrow. Oh, there's a couple. If I go any closer, it blurs.
How much? I don't think I can zoom in. Let me try. No.
I mean, a lot of these species, if anyone's interested, I've got pictures of them up on Instagram. Even the ones that I've not got for sale on the website. Then we got I found loads of babies in here the other day, but they're so tiny. It's like trying to show you a spring tower with this camera.
Someone is asking if you've got scarlets.
I haven't got any scarlets. No, I've not wanted to pay the price for them, if I'm honest. Well, I'm sure I'll get some at some point.
Let's see some fancy millipedes if you don't mind.
Yeah, cool. This is a millipede that I don't think many people in the UK have.
Are they the pink dragons?
No, these are Carnifex. It's the Latin. Got it written down somewhere. That's full grown, and they've got this awesome red band that runs all the way down the body. I bought 10 of these about 3 years ago, and I lost them all bar 2. And I accidentally sent one of those to a customer, and he found it. And luckily, he was a good friend of mine. He sent it back. And from those 2, I managed to pull out 40 babies.
Nice.
And this is the second generation here. 40 babies, and they're all adult. And I have seen some babies in here recently, so should see these on the market next year.
Fingers crossed. I'm a big fan of millipedes. I do like a millipede.
These are a nice small one. Like you say, some millipedes get quite big, and they in a small terrarium they can damage the plants and whatnot. But these are ideal, colourful as well.
If I remember correctly from listening to Scott's live, you're not a fan of Scolopendra.
Not particularly, no. I don't think anything should move that fast.
Don't get a monitor lizard then.
I've kept monitors in the past, but the thing with the monitor is if I try to catch it, it's not going to turn around and bite me and potentially give me a really fucking horrible day.
Well, if you say that, I react quite bad to tree monitor venom. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you have many bites?
Touch wood, no, but I've been bitten by every animal I have in my room, more or less. But no, one of my tree monitors escaped. Well, the tree monitor that lives with Micheal now escaped and lived in the wild for 11 days. And Fee came home and found it on the doorstep and caught it. She caught it, brought it in. I ended up checking it over. And when I checked it over, it nabbed my finger. And when I say nabbed it, it didn't bite and hold on. It just scratched the skin. Yeah, I lost the whole feeling in my arm for hours.
That's not pleasant.
Yeah. I do like the millipedes. I've got 3 different species here. I've got matte blacks, chocolates, and I don't know if they're the same as those ones, but then I have a bunch of red ones as well. They're always out and about cruising around.
These are very active central species. These are always really. I've got a couple of different types of these, and they're always really active, always out and about, and they love lichen as well. They'll just go to town on a pile of lichen sticks.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to keep centipedes for a while as well because I had one get out and it bit Fee. So she was like, all Scolopendra go, and I had like 7 or 8. So I had to rehome one of my Scolopendra. I've got Scolopendra again now, as one of my friends surprised me with some at the show. And they were allegedly a communal species, and I saw 2 of them killing one the other day. I was like, oh, really communal. So I'm in the process of trying to split them out and find, but they're in a massive tub, which is really, really deep, and they're not a very big species. So it's like, oh my god.
These are quite a cool species. I know a few people have got them now. I struggled with them to start with. I thought I struggled with them to start with. And what I didn't realise is they're probably one of the best camouflaged isopods out there. And you can see them really well on this bit of wood. But once they're in the leaf litter, you cannot see them for shit. This is Marinella species Starsky. But they're super cryptic. They got a real cool. Let's see how many just ran off then.
The leaf-tailed gecko of the isopod world.
Can you see it?
Nice.
There's a big one in the middle there. Can you see it?
Just so he moved, I saw one, yeah.
There's another
No.
one still just in the middle. There he goes.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, I didn't, yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're super cryptic. So I thought they'd all died. And I just kept the tub. And there's
Camouflaged.
actually fucking loads in there now. It's because they're really good at hiding.
What would you say is your most colourful isopod? Like something you just like a regular person would look at and just go, "Fucking hell."
Oh, like what do I show people when they come in the room?
Yeah, you're just
Probably
like,
red.
look at this.
Probably red Diablo. I just think they're really cool.
This is your future, Michael. This is, you know that.
I'll need to sell a few lizards first.
Nah, we'll get a big warehouse, move down south. Stupidly expensive, but
Oh, they're very good at climbing. One's already jumped on my hand there.
Oh,
just-
nice.
but they
These are the ones Matt tried to get for ages, Paul.
Are they armadillo or are they?
No, these are the red Diablo.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I know.
Super colourful, super active, and they can jump as well. Like not jump, they do a little hop sometimes to get away from you. It's quite
Parkour
cool.
pods.
But yeah, they're really colourful, really active. They're always out and about. I mean, you can see loads just on the surface there at the moment, and they're trying to get out.
Speaking of bumblebees, are they ember bees?
Yeah, we've got these.
I like those ones. I was tempted. Isopods are bad for my soul because I have an incredibly addictive personality and I spend lots of money on them. And then I'm like, what am I doing in my life? I have too many lizards to care for to do isopods as well. What I like most about the isopods is that's just generally a little slice of the forest. And I love that. I love that aspect of the keeping.
It's very simple. I mean, it's just leaf litter, a bit of moss, a few lichen sticks.
But outside of
calcium.
cork bark, if you replace that for like, I don't know, like a bit of birch bark or something like that, that's literally what you'd just go in the woods and find.
Yeah, I use cork bark because they don't eat it.
Yeah.
So when you've got a colony for like 3 or 4 years, you can just keep using the same bit of wood. But I buy cork bark in and I'll often smash it open, and the rotting stuff in the middle is really good. They love that. You can see they've cleared the back of the cork bark. All this stuff normally has the actual wood still on it. They've eaten that.
They're fun. There you go, Michael. There's green light. Fee said they're fun.
I'd like to see any like rare, unusual species of Cubaris, something maybe a bit newer.
Electric blue up there. Lost the adults. The babies are doing quite well. Well, they were when I checked them last time. But I'm a little bit disappointed because they're not blue. You see them?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
I
bit.
mean, I don't know what I'm looking at, if I'm honest.
It's
To me,
difficult with this camera. I can't zoom right in to show you
Yeah,
because it's just
yeah.
blurry. It's
Yeah, you
just on
can
the
see
top.
them.
There's a couple on the top there. They are really nice. If you can get a good look at them, they're like a real pallid grey with little orange stripes down the back.
Nice.
I take the
I'm,
photo, put one on Instagram because yeah, I can't get a good shot.
At the moment, I'm just trying to, I say complete, but just try and get a good collection of like the kind of more basic Cubaris species. And at the moment, lemon blues are top of my list.
Lemon blues are awesome. I failed with lemon blues twice, and it's because I started with 10 each time. And I'm pretty sure the first lot I bought, I think I was the first person in the country to have lemon blues. The first lot that I bought, again, about over 3 years ago, probably. And one of the first imports I did, they didn't come in very well. I could only afford 10, and I think I got 6 alive. And I managed to keep that 6 alive for a while, and they bred for me. They just didn't do very well. Then I bought 10 again another time and still didn't do well. So I think next time I do it, I should buy a nice size colony to go with them.
Yeah. The price is slowly coming down on them, so I'm just waiting that little bit longer. Those, I always look at the caramel creams on your website. I've got a small group of those at the moment. They're really cool, but I think they're the only ones I've not had too great success with for some reason.
They took me a while to get going, the caramel creams.
Yeah.
I find sometimes with isopods, I don't know if this is probably just anecdotal. I don't know if this is scientific fact. But I often find when you set an enclosure up, you get a big die off. And colonies seem to struggle for a little bit until they settle into the enclosure, and then they do really well. I mean, I can pick out like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're really beautiful isopods. They remind me of a tiramisu.
Yeah, they're
Like,
so I've not been in it too long. I started, well, obviously I've kept cleanup crew isopods for a long time, but I've only started really getting into them seriously since summertime, and they've been the only failure, let's say, that I've had, where I've just, I've had I bought 10. I can only find one, which is a bit gutting. But they're up there on my list that I want to try again. But those
I'm not sure, Dan. I bought those. They were Cubaris Electric Blue. I bought them in the summertime, and that's just what they were. You know, like a lot of these Cubaris, you're not sure until you actually see them because you can't find a picture on Google. So they could be Electric Spark. I don't know. I'll send you a picture. If you've got them, you can compare.
Should we see the favorite isopod in your entire collection?
Yes. Everybody
And
should
then
see the favorite.
Then I can ask.
I've got two. I've got 2 favorites.
Okay, let's go for the 2 favorites, and one of them I can ask questions so I can be successful with them. I've had none die, but I don't think I've had babies yet. So
This I always call it the king of isopods.
well, they're nice.
They're big. They're just flat. They've got that fringe around the outside. The males have these really big uropods on the back, and they're quite bold.
they're pretty cool.
So that's for anyone who's not sure. That's Porcellio expansus. They're really impressive.
Add those to your list, Paul.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I'm getting scorpions again. The isopod phase for me is past, but scorpions are appealing to me. A couple of display enclosures with some desert scorpions would be cool.
And then we got my other favourite, which I think I've always been quite vocal about since I started.
What is it about them that makes them like your favourite?
They look like a trilobite. They're so prehistoric. Flat.
Yeah, boy. These are the ones that we got for you.
They're just they're so flat. I think that's what's so cool about them. It's the shape. They're not fancy colours or they're not super expensive. They're just cool. And when they all sit together, when you get a big colony, you can pick up a piece of wood and they just always like evenly spaced out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, mine's only like I think I've got 10. I still have 10. So on these quickly, because selfish gain, tips and tricks to get a successful colony.
They're a seasonal breeder, so they will only breed once a year. So that's why a lot of people don't have success with them, because the adults are either too old when they get them and they die, or they just haven't got the conditions right.
And when do they breed
They
in the
like
spring?
it. I found them to breed in the summer for me, but
Okay.
this could just be the conditions I've got in my room. I don't know
Yeah.
their wild breeding season, but they bred for me in the summer.
Yeah.
And the babies grow quite quick, but they are a dry loving species. Humidity kills them, so they do need really good ventilation. You see, like I've had to make loads of fucking holes in this box.
Good to know.
They've got good ventilation. Yeah, really good ventilation. Don't like it super humid. They've got a wet corner. I don't spray that. I just add water directly into this one corner. Got like a big turkey baster, and I just jab it under the soil and squeeze it under the soil, so it keeps this just one area damp.
So I don't
And lots
spray
of big
mine.
flat
so-
pieces for them to sit on.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't spray mine, so hopefully, because my room is currently in a winter. How do you find them cold loving? Do you, as in isopods as a general, do you find that they handle temperature fluctuations well, or not really?
I'm super paranoid. I've got too much of my life savings tied up in this room that I've never let that happen.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
If you know what I mean. So like my
Yeah.
room's pretty consistent. It sort of sits between 24.6 is today's high and 22 is today's low, and that's because I got the window open earlier on. So they tend to. That's my preferred temperature range.
Podception.
And then, what's your like maintenance schedule like? I know it's different from each species, but like use Cubaris for example. Like how often would you check a tub, and how often would you spray, etc.?
Everything gets checked once a week, sometimes twice a week. Like on packing day, which is a Monday, first thing in the morning, I'll go through and I'll pack all the orders up for the following day, for that day. Sorry. So I will do a little bit of maintenance then, but not a lot. And then sort of like Wednesday is the full day. I will go through and I'm in here all day, and I go through each individual tub, and I will look under all the cork bark and really thoroughly check. And that's when I do a feed, moisture feed and a dry feed. Spray if need spraying. Some tubs I don't even spray weekly. They've all a lot of my Cubaris tubs. They've got live moss in the front.
Yeah.
Live moss at the front. And there's a load of Jupiters just sitting on the side here. And this is my wet end is always at the front, so I can actually see just by looking at the tubs how wet the soil is, how dark it is normally. I just go through once a week doing that, and then I will sometimes go through again on Friday, just have a quick check through and remove anything that's gone mouldy. But that you only really get that problem in smaller colonies, newer colonies, from my experience.
Yeah. So I see you've got no condensation on any of the tubs then, so it kept quite.
They're wet areas. The moss normally they keep one half really wet and I keep the other half quite dry. So these are like fresh set up tubs. I don't know if you see this. I went in here earlier on and I fed them on Wednesday, and like the whole thing was full of mold from one tiny little piece of courgette that had molded. Because it's a new tub, none of the soil or none of the leaves or anything's had a chance to sort of like settle.
Yeah.
Beneficial bacteria grow in there. So I find with new colonies you get a lot of mold growth, but after time you sort of stop getting that.
I had that when I expanded very quickly. I had a lot of mold, and then the fungus gnats showed up. Touch wood, it's kind of settled a bit.
Changed that 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I was going to ask, do you use, I've heard springtails combat that. Do you use springtails or?
They do, and they don't combat it very well.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've never done it, but that's just
I use nemesis, which are like a beneficial, not beneficial. They're a parasite that only affects the fungus gnat larvae.
Yeah.
And you spread it throughout all the soil, and when they lay the eggs, the parasite gets inside the larvae, breeds in the larvae, busts them open, and then there's more in the soil, and the next lot of larvae will eat it, and so forth. It takes a good few months for it to work, but it's really effective, I think.
I went through a period where I had little fly traps in between each one of my tubs. It's like kind of like jammed in between them, and yeah, they got full very quickly.
Right.
Yeah, they doesn't take long because you've got so much like square footage of soil, and they only sort of live in the top 2 or 3 centimeters of moist soil. But when you've got a small room but tubs upon tubs of soil stacked, they've got such a huge floor space to breed in. You've probably got the window shut, especially this time of year. You've got your door shut because you don't want the flies getting out into the rest of your house. They're all contained in here. I often quite find like some of these, I open the lid and they just all come out at once.
Yeah. I have it
Not
in
very
my
nice
roach
to breathe
bins.
in.
Yeah, and my roach bins are filled with them.
I had that, like, I set up, and then within my first couple of months, I was opening the tub lids, and I didn't want to look inside my tubs because it was that disgusting. Like, it was just like, and then I looked into it a bit more, and people are like, "Oh yeah, fungus gnats are just part of the hobby." And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like,
I had my first sort of bout with them when I think I was maybe 8 colonies in, and I ended up buying some of those mesh like stick insect cages, big pop-up sticking cages,
Yeah,
and I had
yeah.
4 tubs per cage in the cupboard I was using, and I was taking them outside before I opened the lids because it was like biblical, or what I thought was biblical at the time. I've seen biblical now. When you coming here before, like a few months back, it was terrible. Couldn't even breathe. I could be in here for maybe 10, 15 minutes at a time, and I had to go out just because it was too many. But I didn't want to use any chemicals because there's so much in here, and
Yeah, it's
I
not
just
worth
don't
it.
trust it. I don't trust
Yeah.
it. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Free fly traps are working.
Is there anything like you would really like to add to your collection in a way? Is there like a species or two? It doesn't have to be isopod, but is there like a couple of species that you're like, okay, they are next on the list? Or
There's a few things that I've always wanted to keep personally, and I know we spoke about earlier on. Varanus macraei, blue tree monitors have literally always been since I was a child, and I first saw one was like, oh, I'm going to own them one day. But I want to do them justice in a nice big display tank. They're not something I'm going to breed for profit or anything like that. They're just something I want for myself, just to enjoy and keep. And there's a couple of other sort of small lizards and stuff that I like. Always quite fancied having a go with some Abronia.
yeah, I used to
Cloud
keep those.
Forest Abronia, yeah. And I'm also quite fond of Adjournia, the spiny tailed skinks. Depressum.
Mate, if there's ever a lizard for me, a Gurnia depressor, because I'm very
they're
open
just
that
fucking G's, aren't they? They look like miniature dragons. It's that tail. I've never seen any for sale in this country. I know
There's
I
a
could probably
couple
get
here.
some
I know a
now.
few people with
Is it?
some. Yeah. So I don't think they've had babies, but I know a few people with some. So message me and I can send you over like their pages and stuff. But I don't think they've bred them yet. Someone had a Gurnia. Oh, I forget what it was. Either way, there was a certain species of Gurnia came up for sale babies recently, and I was like, oh my god, do I get them? And then I was like, no, just save for the depressor. But
Save for
depressors,
the depressor. Yeah, that's what I've
they're
always said.
thousands. Yeah, they're thousands.
But they're
It's
so
mad.
fucking cool.
They are so cool, but apparently I've been speaking to some Australians. Apparently they're really fucking shy. So it's like you've got to set up a really nice terrarium,
And never see them.
you just don't see them because if you have like a basic bitch one, sounds like you wouldn't in how much you're into sort of your terrarium building. But if you just had like a non-elaborate setup, you just never see them. So well, this is the fucking worst investment ever. But at least if you have something naturalistic and then you do see them, you're like, this is worth it.
Yeah, it's a bit more rewarding then, isn't it? When you can see. But then I don't see this stuff all week. A lot of it you can't see through the tub. That's what happens when you get so many. You still enjoy them, but you just can't have them all in really nice setups because it's not practical from a business perspective.
The there you go. Hugo there. Hugo's there. We were talking about this off air, BH. Strophoros 10 quarter. The is it golden tail, gold striped?
Believe so, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Strophoros are nice. The Micheal, I'm going to touch on it because it's Paul's monitors. Realistically, are you talking a 1, 2 year, 3 year plan? Is it?
Probably towards the end of next year. It all depends on business. It's an expensive outlay for a non-business purchase for a personal purchase. So my missus, when we bought the house, the rule was I had to finish decorating before I was allowed the big tank in the living room, which I think is fair enough.
Yeah.
But I've been so busy, I'm quite behind with where I should be with the decorating. So we'll see. But hopefully towards the end of next year, I'd like to have the tank set up and grown in nicely first. Yeah, I'm in two minds with that tank, whether to go a really big dart frog paludarium with a fish tank at the bottom, or go all out and have my tree monitors. I'm not sure.
Tree monitors.
And if you were to do the Micheal, what isopod would you use a cleanup crew?
Yeah,
probably use white sharks.
because they're everywhere.
Because they're fucking everywhere. Yeah.
It's quite an interesting one.
What species? Hang on. Why is that interesting? I don't understand isopods.
Well, just because obviously, like, they're at the moment they're not cheap, but they're not expensive either.
Okay.
But they're not one you see as cleanup crew.
I see.
Well, actually, I'm just redoing a few things on the website this week, and I'm going to do something called the gourmet or the fancy cleanup crew. So instead of, I think currently you do like a biomix, which is dwarf whites, springtails, and pruinosis. So it's quite a basic one. So I think I might do one that's dwarf purple, orange springtails, and Cubaris white shark. I think that'll make a really cool cleanup crew for someone that wants something a little bit better or something a little bit different in their enclosure. Doing a small enclosure or a fancy terrarium. Something like that. And so the price point on them will be lower because you've seen how fucking many I've got. I don't want to keep selling them for that price, but I've got that many, so might as well bring the price down a little bit.
I've got a few, the new Exoterra Frog and Co tanks, so they're a bit more humid. They've got the different meshes, and they're designed for dart frogs, or they're designed for like small gecko species that are you can't get them out. They're escape proof, but then obviously a small thing would get out of it. But I've got those set up with a very like small little geckos in them, and I keep looking at the bottom because I've did a lot of botanics, a lot of different pods, and some nice fancy leaf litter, and the bottom looks really cool. And I keep looking at them going, some really active isopods would look really cool in here. Like something like the Merlina or whatever, like something along those kind of lines would be an interesting mix. But
just get what you like. I always say that to people. They say, "What's good? What can you recommend?" And I say, "Well, what do you like? Like, what have you seen that you like?" And if you need to maybe keep a few things first to get the experience to keep that, go for that. If you think you can handle it, go straight for it.
Yeah.
On that, back to my world. You said you've kept Varanus before. What species did you used to keep?
I've had Akis before, and when I worked at Nuki Zoo for a while, I had the pleasure of working with Beckerai, which extremely handsome monitor lizards. We've worked with. Basically, I was store manager of a reptile shop for 4.5 years in Coventry. So there's quite a lot of stuff in Timor monitor, Bosque monitor, white throats. So we've got quite a few, and I've never really played with any of the really fancy tree monitors apart from Beckerai, and that's really solidified my love for tree monitors because I'm a big Jurassic Park fan, and there isn't anything as close to a Velociraptor as a tree monitor,
especially Beckerai.
It's just that head, that intelligence behind the eye that you just don't see with many other lizards. I'm also quite fond of Fijian iguanas as well. Quite lucky to work with a pair of Fijian iguanas for a long time, and I was really fond of those. Monkey tail skinks as well, something I've always quite fancied. I've had a pair of those in the shop. They were quite fun. Quite quick for their size when they want to be.
Nasty fuckers too.
Yes, I was trying to put it politely, but fucking when they come flying out of a cork.
Nasty fuckers, yeah. No, go on, Michael.
I was gonna say I keep quite a few lizard species, a few monitor species as well. To be fair, But the way that the tree monitor wogs my Prasinus acts around food, just the way he just tilts his head and then he looks at it and you can just see him. It's unbelievable. And I get that I've got a couple of baby Kimberley Rock monitors, and you can just see they're always looking at you.
Very active species, aren't they? Yeah, Kimberley Rock.
Yeah.
Always moving around, always doing something.
Almost like meerkats, the way they just poke up and they just kind of, yeah, they're cool. I've got a trio of Timor monitors as well. That I find they're interesting.
You don't beat tree monitors. I've kept a lot of species of monitor. I've kept, I don't know, 10, 12 different species. The tree monitors are so much more, in our perception, smart than anything else I've ever kept. Like, they are different level smart. The Indonesian monitors.
Have you got rice ingrai?
No, a friend of mine does. I just have greens, so I have Prasinus. My favorites are Prasinus and Beckeris, and the next species I get will be the blacks. My friend has all four. So Matt has Macraei, Rizingari, Beckeri, and Prasinus, breeds Prasinus. He'll be breeding all four species at some point. He wants all the others. He wants Bohemian Cordensis as well. So he wants all the species. Yellows, if I'm honest, they don't really turn me on. Like, obviously, when we're talking tree monitors, you're talking paper thin levels above that. It's not like I don't like them.
Yeah.
But a yellow has to be like a yellow for me to be like, oh, okay, that's amazing. Because a lot of them are quite drab. But I think it's because
you mean like that baby green tree python canary yellow that's just
like
pops,
you're like, oh,
you know?
fuck, you're yellow. Like some are just
mean.
like a wash green, but I think it's because people keep them on shit lighting.
It's like the blues as well, though. You can get some really shit-looking blues, and then you can get some that you're just like, bloody hell.
That's blue. Yeah.
And blue's such a rare color in nature, isn't it? You rarely see anything blue,
especially blue as well. Not like or a little teal, like, but yeah, blue. Like Williamsite, day geckos, or Macraei, or bloody Phil Leach shared a picture of his Xenogama today in breeding display, and its whole bottom jaw and face is like blue.
That thing that looks like fucking Predator with a.
I think they're the toad heads. The Xenogama, the Xenogama are about this big, and they just have like a little spiky tail.
Like shield tails.
Shield tails, yeah. They're a brown lizard, but in breeding season, the males become all blue just under here. There's fucking what they called, Michael. There's bloody the name's slipping me. There's another thing that looks like toad heads that has a blue chin, but the name is escaping me now. But I have not the wide mouths. I have Todogamas here, and they're a fucking incredible species as well. Like, I love them. They're great animal. Really,
I've only ever seen pictures of them. Very impressive looking things.
Yeah, mine are only a small locality. Well, they're a different species, but mine are only a small species, and they're a more colourful species. But they're out all the time. They are so interactive. Their tails just do this like 24/7. It's just like all the time, and it's like, these are so fucking cool. Why are they not?
It's these species though. Like, I keep frilled dragons, and it's like
frilled dragons are one of my all-time favorite lizards. They're just got the most character. They might not have the most intelligence, but they've got some of the most.
And it's one of those things that, like, your best selling point, your best feature is this massive frill.
Tank and just watch them just go, fuck off.
And well, my pair are very placid. Like, I've taken my male into school before, and I've had 3-year-olds hold him. He's as chill as fuck. And yeah, I've seen him yawn. So obviously the muscles and the frills connected somehow to the jaw. So when he yawns a little bit, the frill just kind of comes up, and I'm like, oh man, you are cool. I've had eggs from them before. I'm hoping.
Oh, awesome.
Hoping to get some success with them next year, but
I've always you see like the pure Aussie ones that are slightly bigger, and they've got that so much more red in the frill. Yeah. Cool things they are. They're dinosaurs, aren't they? Essentially, it's a dial-off.
They're awesome.
The I don't know if you know this, but apparently, fact check me, but apparently the Varanus salvadori, so the croc monitor, the Velociraptor's eyes in Jurassic Park is the Croc Monitor's eyes. They basically just stole the eyes. So every time you see a Velociraptor in Jurassic Park, the eye is a Croc Monitor, which is the king of the tree monitors. But yeah, so the completely off subject, Savingi agama, the Trapalus savingi are the ones that look like toad heads but end have blue things. I had to Google it. I was just going to get pissed off. And thingy, Vivisions, you used to keep geckos, Adam. So we're going to ask you and go to you for this. We've kind of changed gears, but I'm here for it because I can actually get involved with this conversation. He's thinking about getting some smaller geckos. What would you recommend? And you mentioned the Urodactylotes species. I think
Urodactylotes, Villardii, and what the other species is called. There's two species commonly available, isn't there?
the chameleon geckos.
There's basically a miniature crested gecko that doesn't look anything like a crested gecko. The diet is and the environment is exactly the same. So like a 30
they're
by
still
30
New Caledonian, I think.
Yeah, they're New
Yeah,
Caledonian.
The chameleons. The chameleon
yeah,
geckos.
Chameleon geckos
Yeah.
is the common name. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they almost got like they got big scales and almost like a yellow behind the scales that looks you can see through the cracks. Have you got one? I'll be back. This one I've got.
I'm gonna see if I can find one on Instagram and bring it up.
Very, very cool. I'm not sure of the price point on them anymore, but there was something that I used to keep and really enjoyed. The eggs are like Tic Tacs, tiny little things.
They're not a lot. They're because I've looked at them, but like I say, my room is way too hot for them.
Agricolae, that's the other one. Agricolae, Urodactylus agricolae.
Yeah,
Villardii.
they seem to be really, really, really chill as well.
They're super chill, yeah. They're just sit on your finger. There's no aggression in them, but they're not big. You know, you're talking about full size.
Right, how do I do this? Let me see if I can show.
But they're different. A lot of people like crested geckos, and that's just a smaller. It's not the same design, but it works the same. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've got one here. If I can add it to stream, but it won't let me. There you go.
Yeah, he's got his yellow ear, and when he opened the mouth, they've got like a yellow.
Is that the VR day?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's some really cool species from New Cal that just like everybody automatically goes crested gecko, Leachianus, gargoyle, chewy. I really like the rough snouts.
Yeah, live bearing. There's very few of those in collection still, though, isn't there?
Yeah, they're harder to find, but a few available. And then, is it Sarasa? Sarasa? Oh, I've seen their price has really come down as well. But you get a striped. Is it also you get a white striped version?
They've got like the stripe on the neck, haven't they?
The white collars.
On the nape.
I like the VRD. They're like if you wanted a day gecko but wanted it from New Cal kind of deal.
Yeah,
but they're just sit on your finger. They're very, very, very cool.
And on the sort of like day gecko, it's handleable. Whereas a day gecko is fucking not.
Yeah, I mean, on small geckos, I would recommend Stenodactylus to anybody. Not because I'm getting loads and gonna start.
Great, yeah,
I love
great June geckos. That's the first time I ever saw them. I must have been about 12 years old. I went to my local reptile shop, and they had, I think it was like just come out at the time, the Exoterra magnetic hide. And they had a sand tank, and you could come in the shop and you could take the front of the hide off. And I've
got one of those.
Sat in the cave, and I just remember being like 10, like that's so many. Really cool.
Yeah, I currently have 5. Next weekend I'm getting 5 more, and then next weekend I'm getting 7 more.
That is a good colony.
Yeah, so I'll have 2 species. So I'm gonna have 10 Stenodactylus, and then 7 Stenodactylus petrii. So, the plan is to have the 2 groups of stenos. Then I have my Nephros cinctus, and then I might get some scorpion geckos or some like
I highly recommend, if you like Nephris, Amii, because they are a true knobtail gecko and they are something special. Just the whole. If you take the thing from Fantastic Four and turn it into a lizard, that's what they are. They're absolutely cracking. And like the behaviour with the tail, the way they use it's basically just a tiny little ball, like a miniature Ankylosaurus, this tiny little tail, and they just move it around like it's a worm. And they move it all breeding season. They'll arch right up and they'll wiggle it around. Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, I've spoke to someone and they said if you just keep them like monitors, like in a vivarium, hot as balls during the day, nighttime drop, UVB, halogen, they'll just breed like crazy. They'll just pop out eggs left, right, and center. And that's how I'm keeping
Is
my.
Is the Amii the one you get a super red?
No, that's Levis.
You know, a long time ago I kept Amii, and I believe there was only the Amii and then the Hypo was around when I was.
All right.
When I imported the first lot, I bought 6 in. I bought 2 Hypo and I bought 4 normal. There is also Nephris Asper, which is like Amii but black.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, there's a guy over here that breeds both, and he's got a bunch of cool Strophoros species as well, and he's got, I don't know the Latin on them, but they're basically the geckos that glow under ultraviolet light. Their skin's so thin and their bones are same as scorpions, so they just reflect UV light, so they glow.
Cool.
I want some, and they're a dune gecko. They're a sand gecko, and they have web feet as well. They're fucking amazing. Like, they're not cheap. They're nowhere near as expensive
Australian
as
species.
No, Middle Eastern, same as stenos. So they are just basic sand lovers. Let me find the Latin and I'll bring them up on Instagram, but I don't know what it is, but I'll be able to find it. So bear with me as I keep talking. But yeah, they're not the cheapest in the world.
Is it Pachydaculus?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Ragnosis. No.
Rangi. Rangei.
Rangei.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is right. Yeah, they are one of the coolest geckos that I've ever seen. I saw them in person at the show. Yeah, that's Michael. Good shout. And I was just like, you know what? I need these in my life, and I think they could be a purchase for me. Like, once my Gill and I sell, and I've got a little bit of change in my pocket, it's either them or a black tree monitor. But these are a lot cheaper than a black tree monitor, so we'll see. All right, let me bring these up. Michael, suggestions for small geckos for the people?
What are you looking for? Tropical, arid? I'm more.
No idea. We're asking your opinion. You didn't necessarily say.
I really like day geckos. William Enzai and Clameri. I think the neons are stunning. The electric blues are obviously, like Adam said, finding anything blue is crazy. I have a lot of fun with my new Cal stuff as well, but like my lychees are obviously not a small gecko. But I think I prefer tropical rather than arid. But I really like the knobtails. I think I'd get knobtails.
Look at the web feet on it. It's a fucking duck.
That's very cool. That's very cool indeed.
Yeah, they're
one that's often overlooked, I think, as a small gecko, which does really well in a group, is the morning gecko, pathogenic species, which is just really cool because you only need one, and they can fill a tank in a few years.
And then when you get too many, you can.
But they're like your dwarf whites; they'll get fucking everywhere.
Yeah. I remember the days finding them in your keyboard and on your bed, and they get out. Their masters are getting out of exoterrors, that's for sure. And they always lay the eggs on the glass where you want to open the door.
Bastards.
I've debated getting some for my room before, but it's either a case of keeping them only in the tanks that you know are designed to keep them in, or just knowing they're going to get out and start finding them in the tree monitor Viv and everywhere else in between.
It's a better thing to find than crickets, I reckon.
2000. Oh, 100%. Don't beat cricket.
Daniel has William's eye. People are saying about tokays. I'm getting some tokays soon, I think. Mike, you missed a podcam. Yeah, I'm getting some tokays soon. The problem I find with with larger geckos like tokays, I want to get some gecko smithies, so the green-eyed geckos or leachianas. They demand so much space, which is completely fine, and they're deserving of it. But for me personally, I'm like, well, I'd rather just get like another Gilleneye or, you know.
My experience with leachianas is I think I had about 3 pairs of leachianas at one point, and they are one of the coolest fucking looking geckos. If you are out and about at night time and you're in your room at night time, otherwise they just smelly. And you never see them. They always come out and shit right at the front.
And they're messy.
So messy. They make some weird as fuck noises at night as well. They're very cool. They are very cool. But if you want something that you're going to see and be able to interact with,
I went into my reptile room today, and my big male Leachianus was just bang, like just on the side of the glass. I was like, oh, because like you say, you don't see them; they're always hiding, and then he was just out in full display.
I used to keep leaf-tailed geckos. So I had Europlatus henkeli, Europlatus fimbriatus, Europlatus fantasticus, Europlatus peterschmannii, and Europlatus lineatus. They were cool.
Yeah, I've seen a few in the flesh. I've never actually kept Europlatus, but they're very impressive. Because it's Sikora is a really big fucker with a beard, isn't it?
Yeah, the Sikora is the mossy one. Yeah. I've never owned them, but they're my favorite ones because they literally just look like, say, a bit of lichen.
And then is that the one they get pied?
You get pied henkeli and pied.
When I think of Sikora, I think of the dragon from Neverending Story. You know, with like the bits,
yeah.
I've seen people get like silver birch branches, so it's like I kind of silvery white, and then sticking them in. That's cool.
That's the pied henkeli. They blend into that, like
yeah,
they're crazy.
I've got on my like daily dog walk, there's a whole bunch of silver birch trees, and I just sit and I look at them every time I walk past and go, you would be cool in a gecko enclosure.
Yeah. Do you have any reptiles or any amphibians, anything that's not an invertebrate at the minute, Adam?
I've got some fire salamanders out in the garden.
Oh, that's
not
cool.
Loose. Not loose. We've got outdoor enclosure. I've got 4 salamandra. No, I haven't got anything else at the moment. Like, it's all space. The business takes up all of my space, and I've had to sort of prioritize what for the business or what I want to keep. Ultimately, if I can get a unit down the line, I can move all of the business stuff over to the unit, and I can actually go back to having a hobby room again and keeping some of the things that I want, you know, like the Adjournia and some monitors. And I've always liked geckos. I've kept geckos for a long time. There's still quite a few I've never kept that I would like to have a go with. Europlatus is definitely one of them, but you've got to then prioritize, haven't you, what you're going to keep. If you keep everything in one room, like we just had this conversation, you keep hot stuff or you keep cold stuff.
People try and fail.
So just on the kind of the business decisions, because obviously it's something that most hobbyists at least have thought about before. Like, can I do this? Like, is it possible to do it? Like, could I go full time? Could I make my hobby a business? What's the kind of process you have to do? Like you said about your tree monitors, when you're like, can I invest that money or can I invest it into the business? Is it stuff like just like your kind of thought process around that, like stuff like the was it the stag beetle larvae? Obviously they were expensive. The rhino roaches as well, things like that. Like, is there a conversation you have with yourself about?
It depends. I mean, like if you're at the show and you've had a really good day and you've got quite a bit of money in your pocket and you see something that you like, we all impulse buy. But normally I will try to prioritize stuff for the business. But you know, it's a hobby and I enjoy it. So I've still got to keep things there that I enjoy. Like the rhino roaches are a really long-term project. I think it's 6 years to hit maturity. And then it's 12 months. The babies have to stay with mum and they only have about 12. So for a cockroach, it's a really long-term project.
Yeah, but
they're cool, and it's a challenge. I want some leaf cutter ants. That's something I've always really wanted.
That'd be sick.
Leaf cutter ants. I've been speaking to a few people about some small colonies, and I've got a really nice big work bench down in the garage, and I think it would just look really cool on the back wall to watch them when I'm working. But they're expensive, and it's at the moment. I've just gone self-employed, so the money needs to go towards the business more than treating myself, if you know what I mean.
I guess that must be the same as well, though, when you get like an import, like a list, or you see stuff like cool new isopod species, and you have to think that would be amazing to get, but financially it makes very little sense.
It makes like if you buy 10 or 20 cubaris and it's a new species, it could be 18 months before you're able to sell your babies, by which point someone on the other side of the world could have had massive success with them and flooded the market, bringing the price right down.
Yeah.
You got to take some gambles. I try to keep things that I like and I think will sell. If I like them, I think most other people will like them. Colourful, large, odd shaped. I mean, there's so many different morphs of some species, and you think, well, I've got 3 of them. Do I need all 10? Like, are they going to sell that much? I mean, 10 tubs of the same species, all in a slightly different colour. So I probably won't go down the route of keeping everything, just because you're going to end up keeping a lot of stuff that bores you, and then you're going to lose interest in it, and you're probably not going to look after it as well as you should. So,
and then I feel as well, I know when I worked in the fish trade, I worked in the fish shop, the things I sold the most, or the things I pushed to customers, were the things I enjoyed.
Yeah. You always said the
like I was mad into my rainbow fish. So every new customer that came in and went, "Oh, I want a colourful fish," I'm like, "You want these?" And then I would list off that they're big, they're colourful, they're active. You know, you can get like your blues and your yellows and your greens and reds and all sorts. And I would sell the absolute fuck out of these things. And every customer I spoke to would have a tank of rainbow fish. But it's just what I enjoyed, and it's what you're passionate about, and it's what you can sit and speak about for hours. Whereas the fucking African cichlids around the corner, somebody goes, "Oh, I quite like those." Like, all right, here you go.
No.
But, yeah.
Werner Eye all the way. You don't know what you're on about.
It's like I live in a very remote place, and people that are looking for a lizard always go, "I want a bearded dragon," or "I want a leopard gecko," and I breed pink tongue skinks. So I'm always like, "No, how about a pink tongue?" And you'll sit and speak to them for fucking ages, like, "No, these things are really cool." And some people listen and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool." And then other people are like, "No, I just want a beardy." I'm like, well, I don't breed beardies, so go to the pet shop.
It is a hard one, because I'm contemplating. It won't be anytime soon, but I'm contemplating becoming a breeder myself. It wasn't something I necessarily wanted to pursue, as in like it outside of just hobbyist breeding. I was fine with that, but I'm exploring the idea of maybe trying to breed reptiles as a 80% income kind of thing. And obviously there's so much that goes into it. Like you say, something goes out of fashion, something doesn't want to buy, the economy crashes, things don't breed, things don't hatch. There's a lot more things die. There's a lot of space required, a lot of heating required, a lot of energy required, blah 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 blah. You know, I don't have to obviously preach to the choir. So people listening to this, and obviously reptiles and isopods are going to be completely different, but making money from animals, I guess, is the same consensus. But people listening to this, is there like one thing that you wish you knew before making the jump, and then one piece of advice you'd give to someone before making the jump?
The piece of advice I would give is take everything in steps. Like my way my brain works is I'm currently on what I call phase 4. So I've treated the whole business as like a series of Marvel films. Each time I've done a really big website update, I've tried to make sure that I can cope with it. So when I first started, I was doing 4 nights a week, full time as a care worker. So I was doing like 48 hours a week, and then another 8 hours driving. And then I was doing like school run or nursery pickups and stuff like that. I had my daughter in the evenings as my missus was working, and I couldn't handle if I had the volume of orders I had now when I was working full time. I would not have been able to handle it physically and mentally. It probably would have broke me. I just wouldn't have had the time to do it. So as the business grew, I think it took me maybe 3 years, and then I dropped down to working 3 nights a week, which gave me an extra day to cope with everything.
Yeah.
And space as well. You don't realize how much space you need, like not just for what you've got, but if you're selling dry stock, you need to keep in stock all of that dry stock. So I've now got a storage unit. I've got a separate storage unit where I keep all my dry stock. And I'll go over there before order day and pick out what I need and bring it back. Cardboard boxes, all that kind of thing that you don't realise.
Yeah.
It's really easy to run out. You think, oh, I've got some in the storage unit, and you haven't, and you're like, fuck, I've got 40 orders going out this week. I've got 10 boxes. I now need to go and spend half my day driving somewhere to find boxes to send my orders out. So just be prepared for everything. At winter time, make sure you bought heat packs in well in advance. You don't want to be running out of heat packs in the middle of the winter, especially the other side of Christmas, because a lot of the big suppliers will have run out. And you won't be able to get any, and you won't be able to sell anything. But just take it in steps. Just take it in steps. Small steps, big steps. Just try to visualize it in steps. I'm not saying I could still cope with it now, but I'm at a point where I'm just learning to manage everything that I've got before I add anything else on to make my life harder, basically.
Yeah.
I spend probably a day a week or a day a month, probably just going to the woods, and the amount of leaf litter and rotting wood that I go through.
Yeah.
It's like I go through so much, and I have to then treat it, freeze it. And like the rotting wood needs chipping up, it needs freezing before I mix it into the substrate, because I don't want to be sending anyone millipedes or parasites or anything into substrate. So it all needs treating. It takes a long time. And at first, I might have only been selling 1 or 2 bags of substrate like a week, and I could deal with that. But now, when I put them in stock, I can sell 10 bags in a week, and it's like, oh shit, I haven't got enough. And then I've done an order, and then all of a sudden I've sold all my substrate. I've got to buy more in. So it's just being prepared and being able to handle what you're dealing with. Like a show, like I said to the shows before, you think it's like a show's really easy. If you take 400 tubs of insects to the show, it will take you all fucking day to write the labels, make the air holes, put the soil in, put the leaves in, and catch all of those insects to fill in those tubs. It would take all day. That's the day before the show. And you've got all your other stuff. So yeah, it's just about planning your time, I guess, and just try not to burn out. I've taken up another hobby that I used to do when I was a kid. I used to do a lot of painting miniatures. I don't play the games or anything like that, but I paint miniatures. And I've had to take up that to take my mind off of this, because now I do this 24/7. I had to do something else as a hobby so that my work isn't.
No, I get that. So, I get that 100%.
Yeah.
I've just done. I just bought a PlayStation 5 for the 2nd/3rd time since they've been out, just because my hobby in reptiles is almost becoming a business, even though it's not. And social media, like I was saying before this, is becoming a real chore. Plus, I work a full-time job, and I just needed something to fucking just get away.
Yeah,
just needed that.
Need something different to do. Otherwise, your hobby, you burn out from your hobby, and you're not passionate about it, you don't want to do it anymore. So just by being able to take 2 hours in an evening, because I can sit down with my missus, we can watch the TV. I got a little table, I can just sit and do some painting. I'm not thinking about. I probably am thinking about this in the background, but
it's subconscious, so it doesn't matter.
Doing something different. So
that's sound advice. To be fair, my
other piece of advice is don't get personal with it. Like, one thing I've seen over the years is people get jealous or get personal with stuff. It's like, I remain completely neutral. I deal with pretty much everyone in the trade. I don't dislike anyone. Just do you. Don't give a fuck what other people want, and just don't take it personal. If you start slagging off another business online, it makes you look bad. In my opinion, just be a nice guy. If it costs you if you send an order out that costs £100 and it's all turned up dead, don't be a dick. Give the guy's money back, because he ain't gonna order from you again. Just make sure you look after your customers, and that's all you can do, really. Just don't be a dick.
Like, competition is healthy, but it's when, like you say, it starts getting slated. When I worked in the pet shop, the fish shop, we were the biggest shop around. There's a few smaller shops around, and we had customers that would come in all the time and say, "Oh, I was in so and so, and they were slagging you off. They were blah blah blah." And you're like, it just makes everybody look bad. And then if you work together, then it builds the hobby up.
Exactly.
So if we didn't have something in stock, rather than saying, "Oh, well, if you pop up down to this place and you can get it there," instead you would just slander them like, "Oh, well, definitely don't go," and it just kind of tears the hobby down a bit. Whereas if you work together as businesses and kind of build each other up, or as individuals, you just get a stronger hobby for it. Whereas if people are getting bad taste,
in whatever you do, there's always going to be competition, and you just got to do your best against your competition, but don't get petty, don't get childish with
Yeah,
it. You know,
it's
you're adults and just. That's why,
the
because
end
I've
of the
seen
day.
it happen, especially in the reptile hobby. When I used to be in the reptile hobby, as people
It's
slate other
fucking
breeders,
toxic.
and it's so toxic. Like, or someone posts a picture of their setup or something like that, and it's just that's part of the reason I got out of the reptile hobby, because just fuck, I don't want to do that shit no more. And no one was really doing isopods, so no one could really say you're doing it wrong. Am I really?
Yeah, people above you don't hate, you know. So people that are spending their time slandering you, they're below you. Like, there's a few people that have hatched Gill and I in the UK all around the same time, myself being one of them. I don't need to go, oh, this Gill and I shit, or this Gill and I is like, I can show you how I keep my Gill and I can show you what I do with my Gill and I, and you can see all of my shit. I have nothing to do with it. If you want to go buy with them, cool. Like, there's no skin off my back. I don't need to be like, oh, you know, I can just be like, oh yeah, well, they've got some. Like, buy one for me, buy one from them. Great.
Yeah.
You know, then
I don't think you need to be the best, do you? You don't need to be the best to be happy. You just need to do what you enjoy doing.
Yeah, you just need to be true to yourself.
That's basically it, isn't it? Like, you don't have to be the best at everything. And that's where a lot of people, I think, they get into the hobby, don't they? They're just like, I want to be the. Not saying like, isopods in general, the whole thing. In fish keeping, you see it in fish keeping, don't you? And every hobby, dog. You know, people who do dogs, everything. Every people who do cars, they've got to be the best in their hobby.
It's almost like an ego build. When really, somebody said it there, like, it's better if everyone rolls in the same direction, because the only person that's going to negatively impact is the customer, which means chances are they're not going to want to take the hobby forward. But at the end of the day, if I'm well into it and I'm getting more and more passionate about isopods, and I'm buying from you, and I'm buying from someone else, and I'm buying from somebody else, it's just money for everyone. Whereas if I get a really bad experience from you, for example, and I go, well, fuck this, I don't want to do it anymore, then I'm not spending my money
You're
anyway.
not going to spend money with the other two either. Yeah.
So it's the case of, or I seen it a lot. People like slagging off, or like they'll go somewhere, they'll get I had one example where I had a marine customer, so saltwater fish tanks, and they're like, oh, I bought my tank, I bought all my equipment from one shop. When I stopped spending money and I started having issues, he stopped being all friendly, he stopped being all nice, like, because I wasn't providing the money. Whereas I've came into you guys, I've asked for help, you've sold me a £5 bottle of medicine or whatever he needed, and he says you've been really good about it. Whereas the other guy he gave me a cold shoulder because I wasn't spending money.
You've lost the customer and you've gained one.
Yeah,
he isn't going to make any more money out of that particular customer, is he?
And then, but it's this kind of, but then it's just and then like that customer, it's a hard one, because you do want to make sure that the money is going in your till per se, but at the same point, all you're doing.
Everybody was
yeah.
I always, I mean, I've worked in care work for quite a long time, so I'm used to not having any fucking money, so I don't have to make loads of money.
I know that feeling
to be happy, which is quite good, really. I mean, obviously, as the business has grown and like I've got more expensive stuff, that's because I've made more money to be able to buy it.
Yeah, of course,
You know, like a couple of years back, I couldn't have even dreamed of buying 10 rubber duckies or something like that. You know, the price tag when I first saw them, I thought, well.
It's nice to look back though, because I'm really big into like gratitude and reflection, and you know, I've dreamed of owning a green tree monitor since I was 7 years old. I'm 29 now. I have the privilege to have a pair, and it's very easy to just go, oh well, they're just Kermit and Kader, yeah. But that was 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, all the way up until I think I was like 25 when I got my first one. You know, for the best part of 18 years, that was my dream. And I'm living it every single day. Regardless of my job, regardless of like social media stresses, regardless of anything else, like I am living a dream that I had for 18 years of my life. You know, and I think a lot of us get so guilty for looking at our past selves and be like, oh, well, on to the next. Sometimes you just have to sit back and go, well, fucking hell, think where I was 3 years ago, like look where I am now, and in 3 years time you'll do the same. And it's so easy to get caught up in the fucking hell, I've got so many orders, fucking hell, I've got so many messages I have to reply to, like fucking hell, I've got to film this video today, or whatever the fucking hell is. There's always something, but when you
always
do
something.
sit down, yeah, there is always something. But
It's always
when you do
something, yeah.
sit down for 10 minutes, it might be 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm watching the geckos, or you're spraying the pods, and you think to yourself like, "Fucking hell, we're doing it here, aren't we?" Like it's proper nice, and I think moments like that kind of almost save it, because for me, there's been times I've been, you know, fuck it, I'm going to sell everything but one lizard and just have mango, and then that's it. And you sit back sometimes, like I was watching my Stenodactylus, it was like 11 o'clock at night, I give them a little mist down and they're all licking the dew on the droplets off of each other, and I was just in awe of watching these geckos, and the whole world just disappeared for 5 minutes while I was watching these geckos, and I was like, okay, this is why I do it, not any of this other fucking shit, none of this fucking notoriety, none of that matters. Like, this is why I do it, and it kind of brings me back to a base level and sort of enables me to escape from the fucking life that I built myself. But yeah,
You've got to enjoy it. That's what your hobby is. You got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, why are you doing it, hey?
yeah, well, this is it. I was talking to someone on Instagram recently, and they were like, you know, I thought I wanted money, and I've been chasing money, and, you know, I've been getting so burnt out, I've been doing this, and they were speaking to me about it because I've done a lot of work on myself and my brain and different shit. And I was like, so many people deem money as a success metric, and of course it is. But, you know, my dream is to educate people on reptiles. I do it, I just don't get paid for it.
Money isn't always the metric for happiness, in my opinion. And like I've always had to work. I've always worked, and now that I get to work from home, I said I wanted to do it by the time my daughter started school. My daughter started school in September, and I worked her first week at school, and then I finished work, and I now get to pick her up from school every day. We spend the evening together. She helps me in here. I absolutely love it. You know, that's what I wanted to do. My dad worked a lot when I was a kid, and I never got to spend much time with him. Yeah. I love how much time I get to spend with my daughter. We don't have to do. We live right by the beach. You know, we literally just go straight from school, go down the beach. We go down the woods. She comes to leaf picking with me, all that kind of stuff. That's what I wanted in life, and that's what makes me happy. I don't have to be rich. I just get to spend time with my family. I mean, I wish I earned enough money that my missus didn't have to go to work as well. Yeah. So we could all spend time together. But, you know, maybe we'll get there one day. But for the time being, we've got a much better
rich,
life.
You're just not rich. Rich doesn't mean
money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you are. If that to you is the most important thing in the world, you know, spending time with your daughter and just having those serendipitous moments, then you're probably one of the richest people I know, because you do that. You know,
yeah, it's every day pretty much.
You don't get the time back. I dropped down to part-time when my daughter was born. After my partner went back to work, she had to go back to work full time, which meant that I could drop down to part-time hours. And yeah, those year and a bit were some of the best times, because I now do 4 days, so I still have a day where I take her to gymnastics and we'll go out for breakfast or whatever. And that's
so important. Like, that's not just for her, for you as well. Like, that's so important that you get that time with her. Like, just so important. Especially once they start school, when they're there like 5 days a week as well. So when she started school, I really missed her. I was like, we used to have like a Tuesday together, like a whole day. Like, my missus was at work, and we used to go out on a Tuesday, do something fun. And now, like, I get her after school, but we can't go as far. We can't have that full day out, and then the weekends we still have to work on a Sunday because they've got to get stuff ready for the following day. So Saturday's really like our only family day off, and we just try and make sure we just do something every Saturday. The three of us go out, but I do miss that. Like, just me and her, like, full day, go to the theme park, just do something stupid, you know, for the day. It's really important.
It's not long until they're teenagers and they hate you anyway, and they don't want to fucking see you.
But right now, like, they need you. They want you to be their best friend. They want to tell you everything. And they get to 13, they don't give a fuck no more. They got boys in their life.
Fuck your bugs, Dad. I don't want to clean the white bugs.
I'm not telling my friends what you do.
You weirdo, Dad, with your dead lizard in a jar.
I have to drag my daughter out the reptile room. If you say fish or you say lizard, she's running. She's just learned to open doors. So she runs to the living room, opens the door. My room's in a converted garage. So runs to the other door, opens that door, and she'll run in, and she'll grab, like, I've got loads of tongs, so she'll grab a pair of tongs from somewhere, and then she'll run to the Aki Viv, because it's on the ground, it's on the floor, and she'll start twisting the key. She doesn't know how to open the keys, thankfully, but she'll start twisting the lock because she wants to feed the lizards. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, my son's not as into it as I would like him to be, but there's time.
It's always time. It's always
There's
time.
Yeah, he's 6. He likes the bugs. He's like, "Oh, Daddy, can we see the bugs? Can we see the bugs?" So I always have to have like something. But I don't know if it's just because he's always had lizards. Like again, I'm not with his mum, so he stays on the weekends. But he just comes into the lizard room and he's just like, yeah. But then my best friend, he's a single dad as well, and he brings his daughter over, so we make sure we have the kids on the same weekends. And we haven't been able to do it for a while because I've just been so busy with life. And I said to him yesterday, because we went out for his birthday, I was like, oh, it's kind of sad, like not just for us, but for the kids. You know, like we're best friends from school, and our kids are literally 6 weeks apart. I was like, so we'll make sure we sort it out in the new year. But anyway, she comes over and she's like, oh my god, like, can we get this lizard out? Can we get this lizard out? Can we get that lizard out? And blah 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 blah. He was the reason we found Micro Exotics. Yeah. So Fee is obviously my partner, and she asked Elijah what we should get Daddy for his birthday. And what did he say, Fee? Something weird or something like that. And Fee Googled, there we go. And then this has ended up how Googled, I don't know, weird bugs or something like that. A weird bug or whatever Elijah said. But yeah, so she's always like, oh my god, lizards, oh my god, oh, can we see this? Can we see this? And because there's another kid doing it, and obviously kids want what other kids want. So he's like, oh my god, lizards. And I'm like, why aren't you like this when it's just me and you? You know, fucking little prick.
And kids don't care about price tags. I've had that as well. Like, so I've had like family friends come over and stuff. And obviously in my room, I've got my green tree monitor, and then I've got some very like a crested gecko, like a fucking 50 quid crested gecko. And the kids are like over the moon because they can hold this gecko and it's jumping up and stuff. And I'm like, that lizard's quadruple digits. Yeah. Or I did a talk at my work, and I had my frilled dragon, which obviously is a very cool animal. And they're like, we want to see the snake. Show us the snake. And I had one of my royals with me, and I was like, yeah, like here's the snake. And they're like, we want to see the snake. And like they did not care about anything else I had.
Yeah.
They just wanted to see the snake.
And then they always ask the same question. I find kids when you show them a snake, they go, "Where's its bum?" I always ask that question every single time. You get a snake. Where's its bum? Where does it come from?
You know, probably the thing I enjoy the most about kids with reptiles. So we've only been living here a year. We moved in October, so we've been here just over a year. And Halloween came around, and I love Halloween. So I've got a big male Aki, and he's huge, and he's super, super tame. And every time the doorbell rang, trick or treat, trick or treat, I was like, pick what do you want, trick or treat. And obviously some kids think they're cool, and they're like, oh, a trick. So I bring the lizard out, and I'm like, oh, a trick. And they're like, oh my god, a lizard. Anyway, fast forward to this year. Like you could hear them on the Ring doorbell. They're like, oh, this is the lizard house. Say trick, say trick. And all these kids are remembering, and they're like, oh, this is the lizard house. This is the lizard house. And I was like, that's nice. And kind of bringing it back round to the start about what you were saying about the schools and the outreach and bits and bobs. I don't know, Chaz from Stinks and Ads does this a lot. If you can make kids passionate about the isopods, about the reptiles, about the hobby, they're, one, business-wise, they're going to be your customers. But two, the hobby, regardless after we're long gone, continues because you've nurtured that weirdness in the younger generation, you know. So I really, really enjoyed being the weird lizard guy on Halloween, and all the kids were like, oh yeah, this just say trick, he's got a lizard. And I didn't have the lizard out at first, and this little girl was like, came with her dad, and she was obviously really shy, and her dad was like, I'm really sorry, but she's been so excited all year, can we see the lizard? I was like, yeah, I'll go and get the lizard. You know, so
waiting for Halloween just to get a trick.
Just to see the lizard. I don't even want sweets, so we just see the lizard. But yeah, it's that for me, that's my life. You know, I'd spend my life with lizards, but for those kids, it's like, oh, I want, you know, we get to see a lizard today. Like, and again, it's those moments
it's
I
like
take
when
for granted.
I used to run the shop, and you sort of like you're in there every day, and you're so used to like your routine, and you see the same things every day. You get new stuff in, but you're so used to like your long standing stock, and you just forget like that people don't do it every day. It's not their normal life, and they're so fascinated. And like throwaway facts that you just sort of just know, it blows people's minds sometimes. When you be like, oh yeah, you know, just give them some weird fact. Like, what?
No way. Yeah.
Doesn't everyone know that? Like they don't, because then we're in it. We take a lot of it for granted.
Yeah, it's so important to, like I say, have those moments for me. I might just be a fucking weirdo, but situations like that, I like to reflect on and like to remember like how lucky I am that I get to do this, because like you say, they're just lizards. I've got some really fucking cool lizards, and I'm very, very grateful that I have what I have, but they are my lizards and they're just mine, so I don't think anything of it. And every time I see a green tree monitor at a pet shop or a zoo, I'm like, oh my god, that's a fucking and then Feast like, you have fucking 2 at home, and I'm like, I know, but like, and you always take it for granted, and it's a whole weird dynamic of the human brain. Don't know how we got here, but here we are. I told you the podcast goes everywhere. We have been nearly going for 3 hours, so we're going to start to wrap up, everybody.
Yeah, because I've been standing up.
I want a stand-up desk, because every time I sit back, I can see my tummy, and I'm like, I hate it. Absolutely.
That's why I was careful where to put the laptop, just above my stomach line.
Yeah,
and it looks up.
I sit back and I'm just like, that's why I normally wear a hoodie. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's in the loft. It's cold, because this is my loft. I'm like, oh, it's just because I'm like, it's like insecure. That's why I've moved the laptop. Anyway, so if there's any final questions, everybody, I end the podcast with 2 wrap-up questions anyway. But if there's any final questions, Michael, do you have anything final? Or Adam, do you have anything to ask us? You can say no. I won't be offended. But
no, I've really enjoyed coming on. It was I always get like really nervous for these live things. I'm not the best public speaker.
No, you're
once you
fine.
get into it and you start talking to people, you do come out of your shell, especially when people are like-minded and you can just sort of have a bit of banter.
Imagine you got the McRae, and I'm like, what the fuck? You weird? No.
I know he's getting. I was like, oh, he's gonna like.
Yeah, I know.
It was we seen you on Scott's podcast, and I messaged Paul afterwards. I was like,
need him on.
You need to get him on. I says that was so much fun. I don't watch a lot of other people's channels, and I seen a notification for it or something, and I was like, oh, that was really cool, because I'm obsessed with your website. So that's really cool. So I jumped on, and then I was like, that's just such good conversation, and like really interactive with going and looking at the different tubs and stuff. So
no, I certainly would like to do more of these. I've enjoyed doing them. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, I'm not just saying it. I'm not the sort of person, if I just don't say it if I don't mean it. But you've generally smashed it. I didn't catch all of Scott's one. I caught quite a bit of it. I pretty much got to the bit of podcam. But yeah, mate, you're a natural for it, and I wouldn't have said that you were nervous at all. I would have thought you were used to doing this sort of shit. So that
was my 3rd one.
Hey, you gotta do, man. Hang on, bear with me, I've got props. I have to go through shit to keep me going anyways. I've done, I think this is episode 38, and I've done a few other lives that I don't count, so I've probably done like 45 lives. I remember my first ones, they weren't live, but my first ones were like, hey guys, I just want to talk to you about some Ackie monitors and maybe learn how to breed them. And now I'm just like, hey, fuck it, I'm a dickhead on the internet, watch me or not. So the more you do, but then when I go on someone else's podcast, I was a guest on someone else's podcast the other day, it's not out yet. I was like, oh fuck, I'm so nervous. What if I say something? I fucking say shit on here all the time.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you worry about, like saying something. You just worry, don't you? No. You know, we don't want to call because people don't see me. I don't really post my face on like my Instagram or much like that. Like I might post a picture of me and my daughter or something, but I don't do any like live videos of me talking very often. So it's quite nice just to hide behind the business almost. If you see what I mean. And when you come out, people are like, "Oh, actually, he's a bit of a cunt." To be fair,
it's like when you have to do things in person as well. Like when I've had to do talks or whatever, or like you might feel the same when you get to like shows and stuff. You're like, holy shit, I'm gonna have to speak to people. Like I can't just sit in my animal room and play with my animals. I actually need to interact with these people, and I always get really nervous about that until you start going, and you just almost lose yourself because it is conversation that you enjoy. It is things that you're passionate about, and you just keep talking really and talking and talking. Yeah, and then next thing you know, you're done.
Wrong, though. I've had some awkward moments at shows because some people that go to the shows are even fucking weirder than us. I'm not going to go any further than that, but yeah, I've had some weird moments at shows.
literally today, I walked in. Was it today? It was today. I walked into a pet shop. It was about an hour and a half from my house. I went to pick a lizard up first thing this morning. And I walked into a pet shop because I needed to get some bugs. And I don't normally go to this area of the country. So I was like, oh, I'm going to walk in. So I walk in. They might even be watching. So if you are, hello. And I'm sorry for what I'm about to say. Anyway, I walked in. And they were like, oh, Paul. Like, oh, are you all right, mate? And I was like, I didn't say this, but I was like, I'm sorry, who the fuck are you? Like, I was like, you're right. And they were like, oh, I didn't expect to see you around here. I was like, yeah, I was just in the area picking up a lizard. So I thought I'd check out a local shop. And I walked in and out pretty much. And it's just the weirdest like interaction. And then there was two guys about my age, outside of the flat I picked the lizard up from. And they're like, oh, what's that? Like, I was like, oh, it's a blah, 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 lizard, blah, 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 talking about it. And they're like, oh, have you got lots of lizards? I said, yeah, I've got a few. And they're like, oh, you're on Instagram or whatever it went. And I was like, yeah, Paul's one. He's like, oh, I fucking follow you. Oh my God. And I was just like, this is so fucking weird. Like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, I know what you mean. And I've had a few instances where I've met people and they've just been like, hi. I'm like,
No chat.
you all right? Yeah.
Any help?
See you later then, mate.
All right. Yeah.
I'm quite an awkward person myself. Like, you wouldn't think it on here. I'm in the safety of my own house, but in person I can be quite, because
I remember it wasn't IHS, was it AHH back in March, and you were like, I hope nobody speaks to me. Like,
I'm such an introvert.
nobody better recognize me. Like, this could be like the worst thing ever. I was like,
yeah,
you're walking around with your own merch on. It's like, somebody is going to comment.
Yeah, and they did. I had a fucking DM on Instagram at the show. So this was the Sunday morning of the show. And this is how fucking weird it is being a social media sensation, because obviously I'm fucking massive, right? Have it, a lot of you. My podcast, I'll say what the fuck I want. Anyway, I got a message on Instagram and they were like, oh my God, are you staying at the, I can't remember what the hotel was called, like the Charlton or some shit. It sounds posh, but it fucking wasn't. You stayed at the Charlton or whatever.
No, it was the Drayton Manor Hotel.
No, the show. IHS.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it was like Charlton or some shit like that. Anyway,
that hotel was awful. Yeah.
It was a dire. But they were like, oh, you staying at the Charlton? And I was like, yes. And they're like, oh, we've just driven past you. I was like, I have no fucking idea who you people are. And you're messaging me on Instagram like some sort of stalkers. But yeah, anyway, Paul has made it. You're fucking damn right. I'm massive. 40k followers on Instagram. I fucking made some cringe just saying it. But yeah, it's weird. It was weird being recognized because I am quite an awkward person, and my sense of humor as well is incredibly like people just don't. Like, I was at work the other day listening to Chaz talk about the most recent Channel 4 thing, and there was a bunch of gardeners, and they were like, again, if you're watching this, guys, fair play for watching 3 hours. Hello, but they were like, oh, what you watching? And I just basically explained, oh, there's a guy that runs a reptile shop, and he's this is all in the lunch hall. I was like, a guy that runs a reptile shop is basically doing a debrief on a Channel 4 program that's been a bit shit for our hobby, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, well, at least all of us know about it now, because obviously I had it on loud in the lunch hall. And I was like, I'm not asking you to stay. And they were like, well, you could just use headphones. And then the whole interaction just got really awkward because I was just joking, but being, oh, fuck it, I'll say it, a cunt. Just like fucking deadpan, like being sarcastic. And this guy took me literal, and it ended up into this argument over me just watching a video on my phone because that's the kind of person I am. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? So I'm kind of worried when I meet public people that they take me wrong, because on the internet I'm all laughy and jokey, but in real life I'm like, yeah, it's a hard one. Let alone when I vend. We're going to vend a show soon one day, Michael. We'll be selling all our babies. We'll get no fees, because they'll be like, this fucking prick on the end of the table, he's just so fucking so rude. And I'm like, I'm just joking, guys. Come back.
Somebody will go, oh, is that an Aki? And you'll go, nah, it's a fucking Komodo dragon.
That's what I will be like, yeah. I'm like, if you don't know if it's a fucking Aki, you can't buy it, can you dickhead? Anyway.
I have a very similar sense of humor. Like, I stood in the post office the other day in the queue, and I've got like 10 parcels in my hand. This woman's like, are you waiting for the post office? It's like, no, I just stand here with 10 parcels.
Yeah.
For fun. Right. What the fuck? Yes, I'm waiting for the fucking post office. The queue's behind me.
Yeah, people are. I said to Fee the other day, I think it was Fee. I can't remember. Anyway, I basically said to her, I said, I need a job where I don't see a single person. Because I just can't be fucked with people.
Oh,
sometimes.
you don't, dude. Trust me. Like I spend all day in here now, and
You go
I don't see a
crazy.
single person. And like my school run is like my highlight of my day.
Mm.
Because we've only moved here a few years ago. We don't know anyone on the school run. So no one talks to me. And I'm just like,
And you're like, somebody give me
and then
some
I'll
chat.
wait for my 4-year-old. I'm like, yes, someone to talk to.
Yeah. Just go up to random people, go, psst, I've got a dead lizard in a jar. What? But yeah, I
Do I see my bugs?
Yeah,
I see my
bugs. Yeah, I
But
remember.
that's another one. I found that to be a very awkward conversation starter. Is when people are like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And you're like, "Oh, I
Breed
breed
bugs.
insects." And they're like, what sort of insects do you breed? I'm like, wood lice. And they're like, what wood lice? What do you find in the garden? Like, well, no, some that you find in your garden, but I've got cooler ones than that. Like, what do you mean? So I just go on Instagram and just scroll down. It's like a multicolored barrage of insects. And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
man, they're pretty cool. How do you make a living out of that? Who buys them? That's the
Nah, get
who
that.
buys wood lice?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll be surprised. There's actually quite
A lot of people.
following of people that are buying them. Micro pets is what they call them now. I think, aren't they micro pets? What I've heard them being called?
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
get
coined that. I like that. Micro pets.
micro pets. It's very fitting for
Micro pets from Micro Exotics. You know.
Yeah.
Somebody, I was on Instagram the other day. I don't know, it was earlier on. Somebody posted it. It was nice about it. Like, I'm a micro farmer.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good
Because
way
I
of
was
putting it. Yeah.
Micro.
because I was like
That's
farming.
what I often say
The
is
idea.
I'm a bug farmer because essentially it's what it is. It's farming, but we're just farming something different. Now, I'm curious though because
On
they
a very
are
small scale.
land shrimp. I'm wondering if there are implications if you could breed Hoffman Segi on a really large scale. Could we create a new culinary delight? Land shrimp.
That's how the old
think about
the old bug factory started. They were breeding mealworms for human consumption, but then they were like, "Oh, we need to move into the to the reptile market." They're on about bug protein is going to be the big thing, isn't it? It's especially in America at the minute. They're buying up fucking land or some shit to make the cost of animal protein expensive, so you have to buy insect protein because you can stick loads of them in a fucking farm and get loads for your money, or some conspiracy theory shit like that. I don't know, but yeah.
I'm just going to say now I've got 5% left, so we're
going to wrap up, Michael. Right? You did well.
My phone's going to. Yeah, I had it on charge, and then I took off charge.
I'm still on 74%. If it's makes any consolation.
Well, no, because I'm using mine. There's a difference.
Know. I'm being sarcastic, but see what I mean? He's like my best mate, and he still don't fucking get it. Imagine strangers. Anyway, if there's any final questions, everybody leave them in the chat now. Adam, there's 2 wrap-up questions at the very end, but thank you very much for taking the time out of your evening to spend with us to talk absolute shit. I told you the podcast goes everywhere, but I've really, really enjoyed it. I hope you both have.
That was good. It's been a good one.
Yeah, correct.
Good. I'd love to have you back on for part 2 at some point. Maybe when Michael's bred a few of his fancy Kibara species, and then we can do Kibara offs. I don't fucking know. I'm not in the pod game. I wish I was, but I'm not. Anyway,
you'll have some more by then.
I got some given to me today. I got some orange and powder greys, what the fuck they're called. Yeah, I like the scabbers. Scabber.
Yeah, it's come in lots of different colours.
Yeah, I like them. They look cool. The orange ones. Anyway, fuck. The question is,
you'll want some giant ones.
I guess I can. I do want the Hoffmans. I guess I can ask you this question because you used to keep reptiles, but I'm going to change it because the question normally is one piece of advice you'd give to someone before starting the reptile hobby, but I'm going to change it to the insect hobby. So what's the one piece of advice you would give someone just about to start the micro pet hobby?
You're going to get escapees. If you don't like having a loose insect in your house, don't keep insects. That's
solid advice. Yeah, it's solid advice.
Somebody's been in your house before, Paul.
Yeah, I brought, like you were saying, the mesh like butterfly stick insect tubs. fucking tubs, the
Nets.
pop-up things, pop-up nets. I brought a bunch of them. I was like, these would be great for locusts. I can put my locusts in there, like it's aeration. I can feed them, and they chew straight fucking through them. And because I put it on YouTube, other people did it, and I get DMs like, I got locusts fucking everywhere. I'm like, it's not on me, bruv. Don't trust something you see a random man on the internet say. So, and I haven't even deleted
I blame
the
you
video.
100%.
It's still up there. Fucked a lot, yeah. Anyway,
That's funny.
okay. And then the second question changes a lot because it used to be like fucking morbid and all this other shit. People say it's morbid. I don't think it's morbid, but
It was pretty morbid.
It's not fucking morbid. I forgot the original question. Anyway, I didn't. No, this is a fucking lie. Do not spread this propaganda against me, Reese. All right, I'm not having none of it.
Yes, he did. I remember. Because he told me, he said, get these. They're great. There's aeration. There's this. There's that.
It's maybe to you. Fucking your missus messaged me and she was like, oh yeah, we've got some. I was like, no, don't. The bugs will get out. And she was like, oh no, it'll be fine. So I'm having none of this, right? I will not have this propaganda. Anyway, the question used to be like, best piece of advice you were given or fucking something before you, whatever. But you're a father. So I'm going to ask you this question. It's a very hard question. What's the one piece of advice you would like to instill into your child or your daughter? What's the one piece of advice you would like for her to take on from you?
Do what you love, even if it takes you a long time to get there. Always do what you love. I mean, it's good to have a backup, but always try and aim for what you love. You spend 50 years of your life in working, unless you're one of these lucky few that wins the lottery or something like that. You're going to spend 50 years of your life working. Maybe by the time we hit retirement age, it will be 80. Do something that you enjoy doing. You spend more time at work than you do at home. Do something that you enjoy.
100%. Reese, if you would like to send me 100 free locusts, I will send you my address. I couldn't give a fuck if they get out. You've seen the shit I have. My reptile room's a mess. I got bugs everywhere. So, yeah, I'll take it. Michael is gone for people that haven't seen.
His battery's died.
His battery's died. It won't pull back up the phone as we're wrapping up. Okay, well, thank you very much, Michael, for tuning in. I really appreciate you stopping in. Dan, you're still here. Wait. Dan's been hiding secretly. Yeah, Adam, thank you very much, mate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me on, mate. Enjoyed it.
No, I obviously I don't I don't know you from Adam. Haha. I got one more day, mate. But anyway, I do this little bit at the end of the podcast where I basically say nice shit about the guests. And sometimes it's easy because I know them, and other times it's not because I've just only spent a few hours with them. But what I will say, on the few hours that I spent with you, one, you're a very young, attractive man, and I'm not homosexual.
Easy.
So
my missus is in the room next door.
Yeah, but it's fine. I'm engaged. So I'm taken. But straight off the bat, fair play on that. You whatever is in the isopod fountain of youth, fair play to you. And you know what? I've got real admiration and respect for somebody that's following their dreams and you're actually living it. And from the 3 hours I've spent with you, you seem like an incredibly humble, knowledgeable, just down to earth guy. And you know what? I think the world needs a lot more people that don't have the fucking egos the size of the planet. So thank you for just being a part of the community and just being yourself, because you seem like a really fucking genuine bloke. And yeah, that's pretty much that.
I appreciate that, mate. That's really some really nice words there. My dad always said just don't be a dickhead. I like to think I'm not a dickhead most of the time.
Yeah, I think everyone has moments, but now Michael's gone, Paul can get on with his flirting. Yeah, boy. Anyway, I'm joking, everybody. All right, I'm joking. So
I'm gonna have to go though because I am dying for a piss. I mean,
that's fine. I know you've had
my legs crossed.
No, it's fine. I know you had a cuddle, so I don't want to flirt with you too much. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. All of Adam's links are in the description. I'll put your website and your Instagram. If you want any more links, mate, then just send them over to me. I'll make sure that they're in the description. If you want any form of invertebrate bits and bobs, please check him out. Please go give him a follow. All his links are in the description. Micro Exotics on Instagram. I'm assuming you're on Facebook as well as Micro Exotics on Google. Michael loves his website. Please go and check him out. And thank you all for tuning in. And I'm going to end the broadcast now. Have you got any final words before I end it?
No, thank you for having me on, mate. It's been really good. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, mate. And I can't wait for part 2. Peace out, everybody.
Cheers, guys.